I kind of like the Native American representation. I think there's some beauty there.
It always is fun, isn't it? We're going to get going here in about 20 seconds. And if you're new here, once again, thank you so much. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give us a thumbs up, thumbs down, whatever you feel we deserve. Thank you to Science Bob for the Super Chat. The Super Chat is open. We're going to get going here in exactly 5 seconds. Let's rock and roll and have a great time tonight, everyone. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. If you want to take a listen to our archives, they are free for you at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. You know, tonight, this could be one of the biggest shows I've ever done here. After 3 years of trying to talk to the man in black, we are proud to introduce to the Spaced Out Radio audience Luis Elizondo. Lou is a career intelligence officer whose experiences included working with the U.S. Army, the Department of Defense, the National Counterintelligence Executive, and the Director of National Intelligence. He's best known these days to the UFO community as the big man on campus. He ran ATIP, was a part of TTSA, and now he's on his own to tell the world that the truth really is out there. Then at the bottom of hour number 3, actually, let's take that. Lou is going to be with us for 90 minutes. All right, he's had a busy day, so he's like, Dave, can we cut it from 2.5 to 90? I said, sure. Following the 90 minutes, Sean Cahill, good friend of Lou's as well, is going to be here for that final hour. Then at the bottom of hour number 3, we're going to join Vancouver and The Shift, and we're going to get to the SOR Newswire and the thought of the day. Mr. Luis Elizondo, welcome to Spaced Out Radio for the first time. Thank you so much for doing this.
Well, sir, thank you so much, and thank you for having me on. It's really my honor and privilege. And by the way, to your audience, thank you very much, first of all, for tolerating me to having this discussion for the first 90 minutes. It's true. Unfortunately, I don't want to make any excuses, but I'm gonna make an excuse. Very long week, and a very early morning tomorrow. But I will make it up to you. I promise to you, in front of your entire audience here, I will do another full 2.5 hours at any time of your choosing. And second of all, a big thank you to everybody. Anybody out there who's willing to stay up till 12 o'clock and do these type of programs and offer these programs for free. That deserves at least a thumbs up. So thank you. And last of all, I want to thank you as a host for putting Sean after me, because I'll tell you, he's really a hard act to follow. I'm not sure. I think you'd probably lose a lot of audience if you put me after Sean, because I'm a bit of a warm-up band when compared to him. So thank you for putting me first.
Oh, no worries.
And putting Sean after me.
Hey, I want to ask you right off the bat, because I wanted to ask you this question for about 3 years. Are you the first man in black to come out in public?
No, I'm not. And, I know that term man in black is something that's used synonymously for pretty much anybody in the intelligence community that's been involved in sensitive operations. But I'm not. This is a conversation that's been going on for a long time. A lot of people before me have come out. I think what's different is timing. I think I was just fortunate enough to have the right people supporting me, having this conversation with the American people. And also the government itself is a little bit more willing now to have this conversation. So And no, there's been people like Nick Pope who came out, almost a decade before I did, if not a little bit before then. There's been quite a few people. You have Alan Hynek. These are folks who, frankly, probably took more of a risk even than I did, having this conversation, because there was no precedence to have it. At least I was able to stand on the shoulders of proverbial giants, and this wasn't the first time. It's the first time that the government's acknowledged the program, et cetera, but there have been many, many others before me, and probably deserve that, if not more credit than me.
All right. You have been on a whirlwind tour over the last few months since leaving the To the Stars Academy, kind of reaching out, going on all sorts of podcasts, all sorts of radio shows, that we didn't have that opportunity to have you in a previous incarnation. Why have you all of a sudden made yourself so public and the man to be thrust on top of this entire UFO mountain?
Well, that's two questions. The first question is why am I doing all these interviews? And the answer is simple: because I'm being asked and that I'm aware of it. The world of Hollywood is a little bit different than the world of disclosure. In the world of Hollywood, they operate under the premise that there's a lot of people that want your attention, especially when you're dealing with Hollywood and rock stars and movie stars, which I am not. And so it's not uncommon that you have people there, if you will, I hate to say it, but minding the phones, minding the requests. But I was never part of that process. But I am no longer part of that mechanism. And I have the freedom to engage as I see fit. And I think, as I said from the beginning, this is all about transparency. Sometimes the best antiseptic to something is sunlight. And I've made a commitment long ago that I wanted to have this conversation with anybody and everybody who was willing to have it. And do it in a way that was meaningful. And that's not just having a conversation on the major, mainstream media outlets. It's having conversations with the people who care about this topic the most. I've said in the past before, and I still to this day feel this way. My initial mission was never to engage the UAP community or the UFO community. This is a community that's very tight-knit, and they have already narratives. They have a history looking into this. I decided instead to focus in on the other 99% of America that's really never even heard about this topic or ever considered a serious topic. There were plenty of people in the UFO space that took this topic seriously, and we're having a conversation. So the need to have this conversation outside, I think, was probably equally, if not more important, than having it on the inside. But now that conversation's occurring, it's important that we go back to where we started, and that is engaging people that have been involved in this community from day one, certainly longer than I've ever been involved in it, in some cases decades before I was ever involved with it. And I think there's goodness there. This is truly, for the first time, we're seeing a grassroots effort that is absolutely influencing major decision makers in Washington, D.C., and frankly, around the world. And that is in a large part due to the core, the base, if you will, of this UFO community, the tight-knit community, that is taking this topic, again, very, very seriously, and engaging the right people and having the conversation and fighting the good fight every day, every morning, every evening, So that's to answer that question. And then as far as the second question, I'm not sure I can really answer that because I don't know. I don't really know my role in this that some people are sure that I play. To some degree, I'm just doing the job that I did in ATIP. And that's to find the truth and speak the truth, whether it's the senior DOD or intelligence community leadership and my government, or the people that I'm really, my loyalty is tied to, and that's the American people. So I'm not sure that mission has really changed much. Maybe to some degree my boss has changed, because in this case my boss is now you, your audience. I feel that way, but it's pretty much the same mission, really.
I want to ask you, because so many people in other interviews that I've heard you do have really focused on the ATIP program. They've focused on OSAP. What do you know, Lou? Come on, tell us the secrets that you can't tell anybody in the world. I won't tell anybody. We've heard it all. But very rarely has anybody learned about you personally? What did you know about UFOs or this entire odd world that we're in previous to joining ATIP?
Less than zero. If you know less than zero means, most people when they don't know anything about the topic, they may have seen a movie, they might have watched a science fiction television program, but never really knew the topic. I didn't even do that. I never had the luxury or time to really be a science fiction fan. Pretty boring. I tell people I was pretty much a gumshoe investigator, just a fax ma'am kind of guy. So yeah, less than zero. I really didn't know anything about it.
Okay, so how did this happen for you? Does somebody all of a sudden say, Lou, you're a guy we could trust. Let's show you some really weird crap over here and see how you react. I mean, how does this happen?
Well, it happens. In my case, I can tell you exactly how it happened. I spent part of my career in advanced aviation technology, doing counterintelligence and security programs. So I spent some time looking at first stage rocket motor boosters and spending some time in looking and protecting advanced avionics and technology and certain advanced weapon systems. And because I had that experience, some people at the time, which I didn't know was ATIP at the time, but it turned out to be ATIP, needed that expertise to protect their equities. And that was the research and studying that they were doing and making sure that some of our foreign adversaries didn't know what we were doing. And so I was really picked because I happened to be a pretty decent counterintelligence guy with some background, at least enough to be dangerous in the advanced aerospace and related technologies.
Did you ever think in your wildest dream it would lead to the potential conversation of aliens, UFOs, inner Earth, outer Earth, Bigfoot, Dogman, and everything that's strange in between?
No. My hope was to, when I left the government, hopefully just kind of fade off into the sunset. And then I found myself very quickly joining this incredible opportunity with TTSA, with some fantastic human beings. No, I really didn't know. And I maybe that's a good thing because hindsight being 20/20. If I knew now what I knew then, maybe I wouldn't have made the same decisions. Not because I didn't think it was important, but there was some impact certainly to my professional and personal life and my family. I tend to be very private, and a lot of that changes. A lot of that changes when you become someone in the public eye, and it's something that for my profession I've always avoided. Anonymity, I've told people before, and confidentiality is really not only the name of the game, but it means survival. In some cases, it's a matter of life and death. So it's been a very, please excuse the pun here, very alien experience for me because I'm not used to that. And frankly, it's for a personality like I have, it's very uncomfortable. I know a lot of people look and they kind of think, wow, it must be great to be in the spotlight. Well, not if you don't like spotlights. It's very uncomfortable. But it's also an important enough mission where I force myself to do this because it is important. And as you've seen today, even with some of the headlines with the American Airlines, for the first time, you have American Airlines not denying that they had an encounter with a quote unquote UFO and the FBI is investigating it. I mean, that's a big deal. And audio has been released. I mean, even 3 years ago, that never would have happened. Not only even in the private sector, but even in the commercial airline industry, but even in the military. So it's really because of the brave men and women, both in our militaries and our civilian pilots and everybody else, and even your audience, that's allowing the conversation to occur. And that stigma is finally beginning to thaw, beginning to melt away, and allowing us to look at this topic with the dedication it deserves and the seriousness.
I want to just switch to that. I was going to get into that early or later on in the show, but since you brought it up, in regards to that incident that just happened a couple of days ago with United Airlines, they almost seem to describe exactly what the Tic Tac was. Did you get that picture as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's, there's reports of these things of 40-foot flying white butane tanks going back to the 50s and 60s. In this particular case, a white cylindrical object flying right above the aircraft. I mean, this This is what we've been telling people. This isn't. I know for a lot of people this is news, but for me this is routine. This is happening a lot, and I think people would be surprised to learn just how often it really is happening.
What's a lot?
Well, enough to concern the government, enough to concern the airline industry, enough to concern the FBI, enough to concern some of our foreign allies and partners. I want to be careful not to say too much as far as specific frequency and dates and times and locations, but it's enough. There's a pattern there enough to say it's like you're going to a dangerous intersection. If you have enough car accidents happening at a dangerous intersection, maybe there's something going on there. Maybe we need to look at that intersection a little bit more closely, and I think that's exactly what's happening now.
Do you think, on a personal opinion, not your government side, but on a personal opinion, do you think these things are toying with us for the fact that they know that our technology is quite antiquated compared to what they're used to, and they're kind of showing off, much like you see the hotshot pilots at an air show?
Well, that type of showing off is a human attribute. So if we say that, then we're automatically presuming or assuming that these things have human attributes if they do. And maybe they do, I don't know. But maybe they don't. I think it's important we keep an open mind. We really don't know why they're doing that. When we fly over the Serengeti in a helicopter and scare the hell out of the herd and, we decide to dart one of them because we want to study it, are we trying to show off? No, not necessarily. We're just going about doing business. But the wildebeest on the ground running and terrified, they don't realize that. They don't have no clue. There's no paradigm to measure intent. And that's part of the concern here is from a national security perspective, the way to determine something, if it's a threat, you have to balance two things, capabilities and intent. Well, we've seen some of the capabilities, but we really have no clue whatsoever on intent. And until we do, it's really a big question mark. If these things have attributes, and if it turns out to be, some sort of foreign military technology, which again, I've said for the record, we highly doubt. But let's just go down that rabbit hole for a moment and assume it is. Then one could say, yeah, maybe they're trying to show off, maybe it's a show of force. But again, that's a human attribute. And if we realize if it's determined that we're not dealing with something that's either ours or foreign, then maybe that paradigm isn't even relevant. We really don't know. And for me, that's what's most concerning. I guess I would feel a little bit better if these things had some sort of ego and they were trying to show off in front of us, because at least that there's a baseline there for us to understand these things. But that's for me the most uncomfortable thought in this whole thing, this whole equation, that we don't know. And there's nothing for us to base our understanding of intent here.
Not government Lou, but Lou, the human being, the world citizen. Does he believe in aliens?
Well, again, I don't want to offend anybody in the audience. Let's be specific on our definition of aliens. I know what you mean, but to some people, aliens means illegal immigrants coming across the border. What is alien? Because if you go to the bottom of the ocean, you're probably going to see something that looks pretty alien, and we're discovering new types of species that, by definition, 2 years ago probably would be considered alien, right? These extremophiles that live in these deepest, darkest places in the bottom of the Antarctica in the ice, frozen for 30,000 years, and all of a sudden now, these quote unquote zombie viruses that we're able to revive. That's pretty alien by definition, and yet here it is. So do I believe, and I think what you're asking, do I believe in the existence of some sort of life form outside of this planet? The answer would be, I don't know. I think it's quite possible. We have already launched spacecraft into space where we find microbial life has hitched a ride along some of our rockets. That's a fact. And by the way, in some cases they survive. That by definition is now alien life because it's living outside of our planet, right? The astronauts on board the International Space Station, well, they're not living on Earth anymore. They are literally living in orbit, in outer space, low Earth orbit. Is that by definition now, quote unquote, alien life until they come back to Earth? I don't know, but these are some of the fundamental questions we have to ask ourselves, and this is why I've always said from the beginning, from an ATIP perspective, we looked at two things. What is it and how does it work? We weren't interested in origins and who's behind the wheel and intent, because from that perspective, I think that's a conversation that involves more people. We need to involve academics and scientists and philosophers and theologians and everybody out there. Everybody from my perspective has a vote, and I'm not sure we have an answer for that yet. I think maybe we need to realize that look, life is abundant. All you have to do is look around this planet, and life exists just about everywhere, all 7 continents, in the water, and to some degree even in the atmosphere. So is it possible that there's life off of this tiny little rock? Well, sure. I mean, look, life had to start here somewhere and somehow. Is it possible that it all the life in the universe didn't originate from this one little tiny planet called Earth? Well, I think statistically that's probably pretty likely. The question is in what shape and form, and is it life form that we would even recognize as being a life form? And if so, does it think like us? And is it motivated by us, right? These are distinctly human questions we ask because we assume that whatever is out there, it may very well think like us. But I don't know if that's the case. And I think we need to be prepared not only to ask that question, but be prepared for the answer if it falls outside of our existing notion of what we think life should be, if that makes sense.
So has Lou Elizondo, the person, ever seen a gray being? Big black eyes, skin color, silverish tone, maybe brown at times, 4 feet tall to 5 feet tall, almond-shaped eyes, slit mouth, barely any nose, 3 fingers, Ever seen one?
Lou Elizondo as a person has seen some pretty extraordinary things in his life. I don't want to prejudice the jury here. I've seen a lot of things that in my life have been very, very compelling. But in every one of those situations and in every case, I needed more data. And, again, you're asking a great question, and people are going to say I'm being evasive, and yeah, you're damn right, I am. I am being evasive on purpose.
All right. Let me ask you this, as we only got about a minute left, because I think we got the answer we needed from that. Did it scare you?
A lot of things scare me. Sure. I'm fear for me though. I'm not scared by this topic. I'm scared being able to ask the questions. I'm more scared of not being able to ask or not allowed to ask the question than getting the answer to the question that I'm asking, if that makes sense. I don't, fear for me, unless you're shooting at me, I'm really not going to get stressed. And that obviously doesn't happen much anymore. So fear is not the word. My concern is that if we can't have a conversation about potentially something that is existential to our species and our understanding, to me, the bigger threat is not being able to ask the question versus the answer itself. I'd rather have an uncomfortable answer than not being allowed to ask the question that I'm asking.
Lou, I'm going to get you to hold on right there because we are going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Luis Elizondo, we have him for another 1 hour on Spaced Out Radio, and then we're going to be joined by his good friend Sean Cahill as we continue on with just a power show tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Hope you're enjoying. I am so far. The legend is here. Luis Elizondo. We continue on this path right after this. That's a good first half hour, man. Good first half hour. I'll give you a few claps for that. Are you there, Lou? Where'd he go? Did he accidentally put his phone on?
Nope, I'm here.
Oh, there you are. There you are. Nope. Scared me.
I'm sorry.
I thought the aliens got you there for a second. Holy shit! Give me a heart attack here.
Yeah. No, those are really darn good questions you're asking me. And by the way, you're very tenacious. So my hat's off to you. It's, most people will let me slide, but I do appreciate your tenacity very much.
Oh, no worries. No worries. Beer is still on me, my friend. Beer is still on me. But,
I will take you up on that.
The comment of the night in the chat room so far is, does Lou Elizondo have any alien socks that he wears?
No, Lou doesn't. I have some pretty boring socks. Most of my socks are old leftover socks from when I was working in the Pentagon. So they're pretty dull and boring. They're your typical brown and black socks. I think if you were to look at my my wardrobe closet, I have black T-shirts, jeans, and a bunch of suits. And by the way, most of my suits look exactly the same. Creature of habit, I guess.
All right. The hardest question you're going to answer all night long comes right now. Does Lou Elizondo eat breakfast foods for dinner? We ask every guest first time on the show, are you a breakfast for dinner kind of person?
I'm an anything for dinner kind of guy. I will eat anything that won't eat me first, which was great, I guess, when I was young and fit and healthy. There's an old saying that if you can't be lean and mean anymore, at least I can be chunky and spunky. So, yes, I will. There's times when I will eat breakfast for dinner. I'll eat breakfast for breakfast and even breakfast for lunch.
Oh. Lou, that beer just went to light beer. I'm just going to tell you that right now. Oh, it's breakfast food for a reason, man. It's for a reason. But we'll agree to disagree.
Well, but isn't it breakfast time somewhere in the world at any given time?
I think you're getting that mixed up with beer o'clock.
Maybe so. Maybe beer for breakfast.
Oh, what the hell? Oh, yeah. That's all right. That's all right. Okay, we just got a couple minutes left here before we hang out. And let me just see. There we go. Good. All right. I'm having a good time, man. I hope you are too.
Yes, sir, indeed. Thank you so much.
No problem. Let's see here. Where is my timer? All right, we've got about just over 2 minutes, Lou. Yeah, so far so good. Hey, big thank you to everybody from Kevin to TH to Jeffrey, Preston, Ben at UFO Garage, William, and Science Bob for the amazing super chats tonight. Thank you so much. It's a great way to support what we do on this show, and thank you for that. I really do appreciate it. And we're going to come back. So if you're new here, and I know we got almost 200 people listening live right now on our YouTube channel, we are a live radio show. We are not a podcast. So that is why we are in commercial break time right now. And we'll be coming back here in just a couple of seconds. So I do apologize about that. But if you are new, we'd love it if you could hit that subscribe button and help us try and get to 15,000 subscribers by May 24th. We'd greatly appreciate it. And we're going to continue on here in about 90 seconds. Lou Elizondo is our guest. And I, personally, you know what? I'm a big favor of having a good, healthy beard. I think Lou has the best soul patch in ufology. I'm going to put that on the record right now. Lou, you got the best soul patch in ufology.
Well, I'll share with you a little secret since we got maybe 60 seconds left. I used to have a full beard. Obviously, a lot of the military folks do when you go over to certain countries. And it started turning gray. I had this big, beautiful brown beard. It started turning gray. And my kids say, "Hey, Dad, your beard's turning gray." So I shaved it, and for a long time I had this relatively brown goatee. And then a couple of years later, my daughter said the same thing. "Hey, Dad, your goatee is turning gray." And of course, I'm not going to have any of that. That's nonsense. So I wound up shaving the goatee and leaving just this little thing left behind. And finally, that thing turned gray too. And at this point, I'm like, look, if I shave that thing, I'm going to look like a giant 12-year-old. So I might as well just keep what little I have left.
All right, hold on, my friend. We're going to come back here momentarily. Here we go. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for being with us. We really do appreciate it. Want to remind you that if you miss portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Luis Elizondo is our guest tonight, the man in black, here talking UFOs all night long. Well, at least for another hour. Then Sean Cahill will join us right afterwards. Lou, welcome back.
Hey, thank you so much. Well, of course, glad to be back and never left, so here I am.
I got to ask you, do you like being on the top of the pedestal that many people in the UFO community have put you on?
No, I think that pedestal should be flat. I think everybody, I think that pedestal should be much bigger, and there's room for everybody on it. That to some degree, that pedestal has been artificially imposed. I think, from my perspective, anyways, that pedestal is much larger than most people realize. In fact, your audience doesn't realize it, but they're shoulder to shoulder with me right now on that pedestal. You all are, including you as a host, you are making this happen. You are making this a reality, and you are changing history for the good. And I know from where you sit, it may not feel like you're on a pedestal. What I'm telling you, from my perspective, you're very much on that pedestal. Everybody, your entire audience. This is. I don't want to say a movement, because movements come and go. I think what we're seeing here is truly a paradigm shift. At least I certainly hope so. And that's not caused by one person being on a pedestal. That is a joint effort by all of us, and all of us are contributing equally, maybe in different ways, but we all have our role. And social media is an incredibly powerful tool. I look at it, even though I'm not very savvy with it. I look at it every day, and I see the engagement that's occurring, and it's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. So as far as pedestals are concerned, I don't really consider myself on a pedestal. I consider myself, on a boat, and we're all on it together. And you've got people in the engine room, you've got people in the radar room, you've got people on the bridge, but every position is just as important as the other. Again, the spotlight may be, at least for now, on me, but that'll change. No, that never lasts forever. And in my case, I'm kind of thankful for it. But that's the way it goes. And like I said, you're going to have Sean Cahill after me. And, for me, that's where I get my enjoyment, watching other people take this topic and go places that probably I'm not qualified to go. Sean and I have a great relationship that's forged as military people, but he's also just a really good human being. And a lot of people that I've had a chance to meet in this environment are just like that. Having engagements with people on this topic, it's a bit like the Wild West. It's exciting, it can be scary, and it can be everything in between. But at the end of the day, we're all on the ship together, and that's the way I prefer to look at it.
For a long time, the UFO community, myself included, Lou, had really been waiting for somebody such as yourself to come out from a governmental position in Washington, D.C., and all of a sudden you're trotted out. And there was a giant spike in people having backlash towards you regarding that. Now, I know as a person whose job that is, you probably didn't care, but I know on a personal level, we all have feelings. And in talking to a couple people who know you very well previous to this, they said that you were a little upset that the UFO community was, or has been, a little ugly towards the message that you have kind of brought out up until then. So I'm curious, has that affected you, that backlash from the UFO community, that here you are trying to give answers to them, and you've heard absolutely everything from disinfo agent to a charlatan trying to make fun of this topic in a different way? Has it bothered you?
Well, sure. I mean, I'm a human being, right? I mean, of course it bothers me. It bothers me, and it bothered me because I thought what I was doing was what people wanted. They wanted truth and transparency, and instead, I took a lot of arrows. Unfortunately, sometimes the hard road is the hard road because it's hard. It's not easy. I didn't fool myself. I didn't think it was going to be a walk in the park. In fact, I got off easy. A lot of people that have tried to have this conversation didn't do as well. I'm not saying I did well because obviously I still take quite a few lumps and I have to navigate these waters very carefully between my non-disclosure agreement, et cetera, et cetera. Am I surprised? No, I'm a little surprised at the vitriol, at the intensity for which people were really attacking me, because they weren't attacking me based on the data. They were attacking me on personal things, whether it's the way I look or the way, I dress or the way I talk or, whatever it may be. And for me, it was diluting from the conversation I was trying to have with the American people, right? It was diluting the topic. Instead of the topic being associated with the UAP issue, it was now being associated with this guy named Lou Elizondo. And that's dangerous. That's the exact opposite of what we need. A spokesperson is fine, but the cause is always greater than any single person. And I didn't want to hurt the cause simply because people didn't like me. And for me, I was very concerned about that. Maybe I wasn't the right guy to have the conversation. Maybe they should have some guy that looks like Tom Cruise coming out and, is for whatever reason, 6'2" and long blonde hair and sexy and, that's normally associated as being
I don't know what that's like either.
Yeah, well, I never did. Well, I often joke I was that guy when I first started this job, and look at me now, right? But look what it's done to me. But I think that was my biggest concern. I think my family suffered the most because my daughters were very sensitive, very protective of me. We have a very, very close relationship, and they were, they've known what my commitment is, and for them, they had to remain silent. And my oldest daughter, especially, she's fiercely defensive, and also with a somewhat of a military background. And first thing she wants to do is come out fighting, and I had to tell her, no, that's not the right approach. The approach here is we have to greet the people with kindness, and we have to try to be understanding, and we have to try to walk a different path than that, because those paths don't work. Those paths are going to hurt the cause. At the end of the day, if you really are committed to a cause, then you do whatever is necessary to support that cause, even if it means biting the bullet and being an enemy. As crazy as that may sound, sometimes you have to do very unpopular things for the right cause.
True. But this community has also had, if you go to the lifers in this community, the people who've been doing this 25, 30, 40 years, the one thing that I had always noticed from these people is they always said, be careful of the spooks in the world who come out and tell you that they're your friends in this field, that they're just trying to bring disinformation or something along those lines. And this community, many of them have been very skittish around the idea that someone such as yourself could have the UFO community at best in their hearts. So how do you, as a person, try and bridge that gap between the governmental side of everything and the humanities side, where some people, whether they're experiencers or researchers, just want to know what's going on?
Well, my response to that is very simple. It's not just spooks that have been deceiving people in this community. It's the community itself that has been oftentimes responsible for deceiving itself. People have preconceived narratives and notions, and they've been peddling that. And it's you might have one or two former spooks that got in trouble for doing things that were rogue and they shouldn't have done. But there's a lot more people in this community that are not related to the government that have sown tremendous amount of deceit and deception into this community for the sole purpose of making a buck. So, I would say, look, if you're mad at someone, be mad at yourself. There's plenty of blame to go around, and we can spend the next 50 years blaming each other and pointing fingers, or we can all get our act together and just, try to work together to get the answers that everybody's looking for. I think it's very convenient for people to blame somebody else. We live in a society where we love to point fingers and blame everybody else for failures, whether they're our own failures or failures of the system or whatever. My response to that is then, do something about it. Stop complaining, stop bitching, excuse my language, and do something about it. Get involved, and help figure it out. Be part of the solution, not the problem. Don't just sit back and get mad at the football team. You have a ticket too. You can play. Get your butt on the field and start playing. And if you don't like the way the plays are being done, then do them differently. There's no rule book how to do this. And yes, there's been people in the past that have done bad things. But is that not human beings writ large? I mean, we're not necessarily not a super kind species. There are bad apples in the bunch, and it should be no surprise. And yes, there are bad police officers. There are bad military people. There are bad spies. There's bad politicians. There are bad people in the world. But what are you going to do? Reject everybody and everything just because a few of them have done something wrong? I mean, that's not fair. The world is full of bad people. But there's also full of good people that have good intentions and want to do good things. If you don't trust the government, then, at some point, I would say you're probably living in the wrong country. Yeah, governments make mistakes, and we like to point out all the bad things and the double talk politicians do. But, there's a lot of good things people do, too. And there's a lot of good politicians and good police officers and good teachers and nurses and coaches and everybody else, just like there's bad radio talk show hosts and whatnot. So I don't think it's fair to lump anybody who has served their country, whether in the world of intelligence or anything else, because a lot of these people that are serving in intelligence and in the military are out there putting their asses on the line to protect this country. And they do it in times of war. They do it in times of peace. They're waking up early in the morning and coming home late instead of taking their kids to soccer practice. They're busy defending this country. So I think it's disingenuous. I think it's unfair, and I think it's very short-sighted to lump everybody into a certain category. That's probably part of the problem we face now as a society. Everybody wants to, we all claim, hey, everybody is we're all equal and independent and do whatever you want. Nobody should judge or stereotype, and yet that's exactly what we're doing. We're stereotyping somebody who's committed their life to service, and all of a sudden, just because they had a certain job, now they're an enemy. I mean, that doesn't really make sense to me, anyways.
So what do you want? In your perfect world, take away the government side, take away the NDA side, because, but if you had the perfect concept to bring this topic out, what do you want from a public standpoint?
I want the truth to come out so I can retire and I can go about living my life and minding my own business. That's what Lou Elizondo wants. I want this to come out where more qualified people than myself can continue to have this conversation and get answers that the people deserve. I don't have all the answers, and I'm not the one qualified to take this to the finish line. This is a relay race. This isn't a sprint. This is, I've told people before, a marathon, and there's a lot of runners that are going to pick up the baton and have ran before me and are going to continue to run after me. This shouldn't be the, world according to Lou, or Lou's the one who's going to deliver the truth. No, Lou's going to try to deliver the truth the best he can, and as often and as much as he can. But, I may not even be alive when ultimately the final answers are revealed. Frankly, I probably won't be. So I guess what I would say is that if Lou had his druthers, people like you and your audience will someday be in a position to continue to have this conversation in a meaningful and thoughtful way. So I don't have to. So I can I can finally retire and hang up my spurs or my guns and just, be me and live.
Do you miss living? Do you miss having to? Does it bother you to have to say so little, even though you want to say so much?
Absolutely, it's an internal conflict that I have to live with every day. But I have responsibilities, and those responsibilities continue. I'm in this for the long game, and it's frustrating. I wish people, knew that, but I understand they don't, because not all the information's come out. And at some point, maybe it will. I suspect it will. You asked me, am I living? I'm alive, and I live when I'm with my family and my friends and whatnot. I live when we incrementally achieve something together as a community and are getting answers and finally getting action from the government that the people deserve, and the government deserves too, by the way. Mm-hmm. I'm living then, but no, I haven't had a chance to just sit back and just rest in probably since I was a kid, to be honest with you. I'm still a bit engaged in the firefight, if that makes sense.
It totally makes sense. I want to ask you, because when I see the defensive side and we hear kind of the defensive posturing that you sometimes have to take, and not just you, but the entire governments of the world when it comes to this subject, to me, as an outsider looking in, it means they don't feel that every person on this planet is ready for any type of disclosure. All right. When I see UFOs, separated from aliens, when I see, the deflection of this topic a lot of times, what you're trying to do, but what you cannot say, is the public, in your mind, the 7.8 billion people, ready to find out the truth?
Are you asking me as a human being, as a person, as a citizen, or are you asking me as a
citizen Lou? Citizen Lou.
Absolutely, I believe the truth is a truth, and people deserve to know the truth. Look, if I am diagnosed with cancer, I want my doctor to tell me. Don't lie to me, even if the news is bad. And in the same respect, if the news is good, I want to know. I have a right to know. It's not up to you or anybody else or any institution, organization, government, or religion to sequester the truth because they can handle it and I can't. I don't think anybody has the right to make that decision on behalf of other people. That's to me an inalienable right that we all have as a citizen of the world, and that's my perspective.
So you don't think that the 4.5 billion on this planet who are tied to some religious deity, whether it's God, Allah, Brahma, Buddha, whoever it may be, where everything coming from the stars is of a demonic nature, that just in case there are extraterrestrials coming here, that they would be able to hand it? Because, dude, we go to war over everything. We're not a very calm species, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, but you asked me, do people deserve to know? And the answer is still yes. Now, are they ready for the truth? I don't know. That's a different question. Whether someone is, am I ready for a diagnosis that I have terminal cancer? No, probably not. But do I still want to know the truth? Yes, I do. And so there are two separate fundamental questions that you're asking me. Do people deserve to know the truth? The answer is yes. Are people ready to know the truth? Well, some probably aren't. But again, two different questions. And the other aspect of religion and organized religion, religion's a funny thing. When people confuse God or their notion of God with religion, I think that's where we start having problems. When people stop worshiping their God and instead start worshiping their religion, then that sets up issues, because religion is fundamentally a human thing. It's not a deity thing. It's not a theological thing. God, the notion of God, or gods. That is different. That is a spiritual thing. But religion isn't. Religion is a practice where God is something far. The idea, the notion of God is far more intimate. And I do think whenever human beings impose their regiment upon others, then you're going to have friction. You're going to have problems, especially if it doesn't conform to that narrative. Look, to some degree, ufology is a religion. There's a lot of people in ufology that I'm learning really look at this as somewhat of a religion. And whenever you provide information or data that opposes that narrative, whatever preconceived narrative they have, they're going to be very defensive about it. And they will defend that. Look, we defend our religious philosophies for thousands of years with violence and war. We kill each other. And sometimes even in the same religion, whether you're a Protestant or a Catholic, all of a sudden you become an enemy. And so this is something that is as innate to mankind as living and breathing and eating and everything else. It's in our nature. But I don't blame the notion of God with that. I blame man for that, not God.
What about, as we got about 2 minutes left before we have to go to break at the top of the hour, Luis Elizondo is our guest. What about the economy? There is a big fear out of many people out there that any type of extraterrestrial presence, the way Mr. Robert Bigelow put it, visiting this planet, could be quite hectic towards everything from the economy to Wall Street. Has that been discussed in the merits of any sort of disclosure?
I mean, there's been studies in the past that have predicted, that religious institutions and governments have to worry about this. But let's face it, we're having the conversation, aren't we? And no religion has failed yet, and no government has collapsed yet because of this. Now, economy is a different thing, but economy is very fickle. I mean, one tweet from the wrong person, and all of a sudden, oil prices will drop or they'll spike, right? So economy is by nature a fickle beast. That's not. You can't blame the notion of the reality or the existence of life beyond this planet for an economic collapse. That doesn't make sense. I mean, COVID caused a significant financial hardship,
and that's why I asked
the world.
That's why I ask. I mean, You look at the way the public is, we've got about 45 seconds. You look at the way the public has handled COVID-19. I don't know if we're ready for any type of real phenomena to, I don't mean that in the wrong way or a terse way that COVID is wrong, but something major like knowing that we're not alone in the universe, Lou.
But you may be right, but I would submit to you then if it's not that, then it's going to be something else that's going to cause those issues with the economy. So if it's not life beyond this planet, there will be another issue. There'll be some sort of regional conflict. There'll be some sort of crisis. There always is. There always has been. There always will be. So that's not going to change. You're not going to save an economy by simply not having this conversation. Because the economy is going to do what the economy does. It's going to react to markets. And those markets are fickle by nature. So whether it's alien life or a war over in the Middle East, that's reality. That's life. So might as well have a conversation.
And in the end, that's what beer is for. That's what beer is for, to have that conversation. And we have to have that conversation. And water, absolutely. Luis Elizondo.
No, wine.
Wine. Yeah, the other colored water. The colored water. We have Luis Elizondo for another half an hour here on Spaced Out Radio. And then Sean Cahill will join us for 1 hour, where we're going to get into experiencers versus science. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. Awesome hour, man. Awesome hour. I'm just going to run my dogs out. I'll be right back, okay?
Sure. I can, I guess, sing a tune if you like, or...
just sit quietly, and I'm going to put some commercials on here.
You got it.
$100 go directly toward life-improving items. Then we give those items directly to an underdog who needs it most. To become a donor with Spaced Out Radio's official charity, Chive Charities, just go to chivecharities.org/donate.
The SOR Vault is open for business, and do we have some cool swag for you to pick up? All you have to do is head over to our website and click on the SOR Vault. You have a variety of cool logos to choose from, and put them on anything you want. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, coffee mugs, you name it, we can get it to you. So do your shopping by supporting the story you love. Get your Spaced Out Radio swag at the SOR Vault today.
We are scouring the world for the most intriguing stories of your day. Take the time to read up on the SOR Newswire, where our team, led by Captain Shirk, will deliver to you some of the best paranormal and supernatural news, along with some stories that will blow your mind from the weird to the wacky. It's the news outside the news that piques interest, and that's what we're looking to deliver to you. The SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at mightymoosebeard.com today.
Are you an experiencer of something strange that can't be explained? Do you want help finding out what's going on? I'm Ryan Stacy, head of the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TESA. We've teamed up with Spaced Out Radio to investigate cases filled out in the SOR Sightlines report. We are independent and there's no cost to what we do. All we need is your experience. Let's find out what's happening together on the SOR Sightlines report.
For the price of 1 cup of coffee a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. The Space Travelers Club is a place where you can interact with other listeners, either live during the show or on our great forum. We want your stories, pictures.
All right, Lou, I'm back. We've got about 3 minutes, 15 seconds.
You know, I know we are still on a commercial break, but, you know, it's funny, people talk about religion and they think this is a threat, but I'll tell you, I've got some friends of mine that are of a particular faith, and, you know, from their perspective, you know, they smile, and they told me, quite frankly, Lou, this actually reinforces my faith. So I don't think that it really is necessarily a threat that a lot of people have made it out to be to organized religion. I think if people were just to take a breath for a moment and really look at what we're talking about here, it's really no different than when Copernicus or Galileo were pushing the idea that the Earth wasn't the center of the solar system. You know, I don't. I think if anything, it may ultimately it might even reinforce some people's spirituality.
Well, let's hope. Let's hope. You know, but I know a bunch of religious people around my community, and it's still one of those topics that you just don't talk about. You just
it is. You're right. I mean, I faced that personally, and when I was in the Pentagon, there was definitely a core group of people that this was a significant challenge. But I also think there's a lot that it's not. I mean, we were talking before about certain indigenous groups, and to them, this doesn't change anything for them. It's only reinforcing some of their oral traditions, and even in the mainstream Christian religion, you know, there's faiths within the Christian religion that this narrative, if you will, that's starting to unfold, actually reinforces their doctrine. You know, I'm not going to go into specifics which one, but that's, you know, I agree with you. There's some that are going to, but there's people out there that are going to be threatened by anything, and that's no matter where you go. And it's not just religion; it's with with anything, even politics. We see it all the time, right?
Oh, yeah.
Any opposing view is going to be looked at as a threat.
Very true. Very, very, very true. Well, we only got about 45 seconds, so I'll hold off on the next one here. But I really appreciate you doing this, man.
Hey, absolutely, my friend. My honor and pleasure. I have to ask while we're still on break. So what beer, because you mentioned it quite a bit, what beer do you prefer? Can you say on radio?
Oh yeah, I don't mind. I like it. My favorite beer would be a brand out of Eastern British Columbia called Kokanee. And would you have that where it is absolutely ice cold? It's like heaven. And I'm not a beer drinker, but it's like heaven. Hold on, my friend. Here we go.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter @SpacedOutRadio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is underway tonight. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. We welcome back everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. Now, if you want to check out our archives, they are free for you at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Jararaka. Jararaka is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter @SpacedOutRadio and on Instagram @SpacedOutRadioShow. We have Luis Elizondo until the bottom of the hour, when we are then going to be joined by Sean Cahill, his good friend. And Lou, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. We really do appreciate it, man.
My pleasure. And before we go into any more, I'm gonna embarrass one of my close friends here, and that's Sean Cahill, who you're gonna have on your next hour. A lot of people know him by his handle of as Minty Hyperspace, but I'm going to share something with your audience right now that I'm certain very few know, but a few people. He actually has another name that we call him, and I know he's absolutely going to hate me for saying this, but and I'll make a public proposal that I'd love to see it. But he's actually known as the Mystic Lion. We if anybody's ever known Sean personally, in close circles we call him the Mystic Lion. He's got this big, beautiful mane of hair, and when we were shooting together. It looked like a shampoo commercial. It was just as, incredible long hair. And of course I have very little to none. And, him standing next to me, we kind of look like an olive and a toothpick, but, his real name by his closest friends, he's known as the Mystic Lion. And, I often tell him, man, you got to change your name on Twitter from Minty Hyperspace to, really what you're known as. And so, he's resisted, but maybe we can get enough momentum here where maybe he'll change it to to what he's really known for.
Yeah, Sean does have a good hair and beard combination. We should make that out to the public, and we'll ask him what kind of shampoo and conditioner he uses when he comes on the show. We definitely will.
I just heard your commercial for the beard. It reminded me, and I wanted to tell you. I know your audience is always asking me for some secret. Well, that's really, no kidding, a closely guarded secret, and you're now hearing it live on your radio for the very first time. Sean is actually known as the Mystic Lion. The Mystic Lion.
That is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
Lou, the threat narrative. Experiencers out there will say that, the majority of experiencers will say that they haven't perceived this phenomena as a threat. Although when it enters some sort of airspace, military airspace, or like we just saw with the airliner a couple of days ago where a close encounter happened, within feet, that does seem threatening. How do we draw the difference between a real threat to our survival and a threat that something is entering airspace?
Well, let me ask you a question. Let's first start with the notion of, you said experiencers. What do experiencers typically report? And I'm asking you a serious question because there's a reason why I'm asking you this. Because I've often heard that the term abductees and et cetera, whatnot. What is an experience with the phenomenon? Is it seeing a craft, or is it something else? And I'm asking you this. I really want to know what's your definition of an experiencer?
Well, the journalist in me says, "Why don't you tell me what your experience
was?"
Well,
I'll tell you what my response is going to be. But I'm curious. What is, from a lay perspective, what are some of the stories that experiencers say? And
for a lot of people that I've talked to, okay, you have the experiencers, the traumatic side where people have some sort of surgeries done, scoop marks on their body, anal probing, everything along those lines. It's more from just spotting a set of dots up in the sky, because you can't tell what those set of dots are. But, I mean, when you have a close encounter, say a landing in front of you like I did on April 10th, 2014, or April 15th, 2014, 5 days later, where I'm standing in the middle of a forest with a good friend of mine, Samantha Mowat, staring at an extraterrestrial at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, that's a little bit bone-jarring. However, I recall when that situation happened, I'd seen fire in the sky. I had seen the Hollywood version of The Nightmare That Happens, which nothing happened there. Nothing. So my question...
Well, very good point.
So my question is, for a lot of us who have had those experiences where it's almost been peaceful, it's almost been enlightening, some people are getting downloads, you've heard all the stories, you've probably investigated them, where do you stand on the threat narrative?
Well, you said it before, people being, so let's go down that rabbit hole for just a moment. And,
sure.
And the reason why is because hopefully you'll understand my perspective when I'm done. You go to the supermarket and there's a lot of people in the parking lot. No, not everybody's a threat. Yes, there's a possibility somebody could mug you. Yes, a car could back into you, and that's a threat. But if someone is an experiencer and they have described, even on one occasion, being taken on board somewhere against their will or not voluntarily, from my perspective, that's called kidnapping. That's a felony. And then if they are touched in any way, right, let alone experimented on, but touched, that's another crime. Okay, that's called assault. And depending on the type and nature of assault, there's varying degrees of assault, right? And so is that a threat? Well, it's a crime. It's a threat if a person does it to you, let alone anything else. So yeah, that's a threat. Now, is every situation a threat? No, of course not. But you have a security guard at a mall parking lot, not because everybody's a threat, but because one might be a threat, right? So if you have that security guard there as a matter of precaution, well, that's what the role of DoD is. They're not saying everything is necessarily a threat, but the potential exists that it could be, and that's why that threat narrative is there. They're not saying emphatically this is a threat. What they're saying is we don't know if it's a threat, and therefore it could be if potentially it wanted to be, because we don't have enough data yet. So for every person who says they've had a nice benign experience such as yourself, which is wonderful from that perspective, if indeed you thought it was wonderful, there's equally number of people who've been absolutely terrified and have reported something much different, reported foreign objects placed inside their body, right? And that's that's a big issue for me. I'm looking at things, maybe a little bit too simplistically, but anybody, I've got 2 daughters, anybody approaches and even tries to take my daughter somewhere against her will, that's a threat, let alone if they even if so much as touch her without her explicit consent.
True.
That is a threat.
True.
So that's the optic we look at. We're not saying everything out there is a threat, but let's face it, the mission of the Department of Defense and the intelligence community is to identify threats. And until you know something is not a threat, you have to presume it has a capability until you know otherwise. Again, remember, there's two parts to that equation of identifying if something is a threat, and that is capabilities and intent. And we've seen and documented a lot of their capabilities, which is far beyond ours, but we still have no idea of intent. So therefore, the presumption is that it could be a threat until we are sure it's not a threat.
Okay, so human Lou, not government Lou, human Lou. Has human Lou ever been taken?
No, human Lou has never been taken that he is aware of against his will.
Has human Lou ever volunteered to walk up to a craft and say, "Hey, boys, let's go for a ride"?
No, Lou has never volunteered to board a spacecraft. I've never volunteered for such mission.
I would. I'm not going to lie. I would. 100%.
And yeah, I'm not saying I wouldn't. I mean, honestly, as a father now and as a husband, I probably wouldn't, only because I have responsibilities and I don't want to take any unnecessary chances. Unfortunately, I can't live for myself anymore. If I wasn't perhaps a family man, then yeah, that calculus would change. But right now I don't live for me. Most people out there who are fathers and wives and whatnot, who have children, not everybody, but some would probably, a lot of people would probably say, it sounds like a good idea, but at the end of the day, I'm not sure it's worth the risk. And that's just my personal perspective. I wouldn't judge anybody who wanted to. I mean, the first thing that's going to happen is as soon as you get back, I'm going to debrief you. I'm going to ask you for all the data that you can possibly provide me. So yeah, there you go.
Lou, for a lot of people who are new to this subject, it seems ufology started with the Nimitz in 2004. Yet there's a lot of still unanswered questions regarding Roswell, Kecksburg, Shag Harbor, numerous places. The Phoenix Lights come to light. Okay, no pun intended when I say that. Are these the forgotten stories or of ufology that we still need to concentrate on for answers, or are the answers out there, they just haven't made it public yet?
Well, first of all, ufology, and please, I respectfully beg to differ. Ufology began thousands and thousands of years ago. They began when indigenous people began writing petroglyphs separated by thousands of miles of the same thing, of the same phenomenon. Ufology continued when Roman soldiers were writing letters to Roman generals about these flaming Roman shields in the sky that were following them from battle space to battle space. Ufology continued into the Middle Ages. Ufology has been with us for a long, long time. It just wasn't called ufology. It was called something else, depending on who you asked at the time. So I don't think necessarily. I mean, I think for a lot of people, from a lay perspective, yeah, really the keen interest by the government may have began in minutes, but then I would turn around and say, well, not really. Of course, we had Blue Book and we had other incidents. We have reporting, official U.S. government reporting, very compelling official reporting, going back decades and decades. This is not new. This is not a new phenomenon for us. We just may have a new understanding to some degree, but the observations are nothing new. At least that's our current consensus right now. And I think we're at a time now where we're living, fortunately, with the technical capabilities where most people on the planet now have the capability to start recording and seeing things that before only the most advanced countries with the most advanced equipment and technology could capture. Now you have some pretty high resolution, high fidelity, pictures and movies being taken by Joe Citizen and Jane Citizen out there. So, I don't think that ufology necessarily started with the Nimitz. I think perhaps this latest phase of government engagement and study, that's probably true, but it's certainly not new for humanity, and frankly, it's not new for the U.S. government.
Okay, but for the mainstream public, the way it's come out in the media the last 3 years, it all surrounds the Nimitz. I mean, it amazed me with the mainstream media last year when the Pentagon came out stating that they have been covering this for decades, that nobody asked anybody at the Pentagon about Roswell or Phoenix or Kecksburg or the Marfa Lights, whatever. We could go on and on about the sightings. Kenneth Arnold, for instance. Nobody went in that history. Is that, in your opinion, an ignorance of today's media, the way they have treated this subject? Or is it a matter of fact that let's keep it up on the reel, that we're going through the scientific side of everything and the governmental side?
No, I think it's a combination. It's not just the media's fault. To some degree, yes, but the media is responding to the appetite of the people. And most people really considered this topic to be fringe, and it was actually it was a negative topic, not a positive topic. So the media only responds to the demand of the public, just like the government does, just like the legislation of this country responds to the demands of the people. And I think we're just not at a point where enough people, we reached a critical mass where enough people are saying, hey, yeah, you know what? This is legitimate, and we want mainstream media to report on it. This is not kooky. This is not crazy. This is probably just science, and we probably are now getting to the point where we're coming to terms with that realization. Yes, mainstream media to some degree, has to burden some of the blame, but at the end of the day, the real blame, and this is going to be unpopular, but I think it lies with us. It lies with us as a society. There are other countries who took this topic much more seriously than we did for a long time, and that's because their population and their citizens didn't consider this topic taboo. So I think, to the credit of Governor Simonton, who came out finally and said, actually, you know what, I did see that, and that was pretty crazy. Remember the first reaction he had, that knee-jerk reaction was to make fun of it, right, and have someone come out, I guess, and maybe in an alien suit or something, and poke fun at it. And I don't think it was meant to be hurtful or harmful. It's just that was the knee-jerk reaction that we all are kind of programmed to respond to when you hear about this type of stuff. It's only when you peel back away some of that stigma and taboo do you begin to realize that there's something there, and what that something is. Well, we're not quite sure, but that is real, and I think we're perhaps experiencing a bit of a renaissance, maybe, or an awakening, or maybe a maturing of society, ours in particular, and waking up to the realization that maybe we've done ourselves a disservice by relegating this topic to fringe for so long.
We only have about 5.5 minutes left with you. And, I know we're going to do this again. That's already been proposed by you and everything, and we appreciate that. And there's a lot of questions we're not going to get into. But being the lone Canadian in this conversation, I would like to ask you a couple of questions about Canada and their role in all of this, because being one of the top allies of the United States and being the northern neighbor who never seems to, knock on the door for anything, we've been pretty quiet on this topic up here. How involved is Canada in this phenomena?
So I'm not going to answer on behalf of your countrymen, but let me say this. If you take any map... I'm
going to get you to move your microphone a little bit, if you don't mind. You went muffled.
Sure.
Sorry
I'm sorry. I apologize. No worries. I apologize. I'm not going to speak on behalf of your countrymen, and certainly I'm not going to speak on behalf of your government. We've always had very close relationships with Canada. I've had the honor to serve with them in combat. Some of the finest human beings I've ever had the privilege to do that with, and the honor of serving with. But look, if you take any map of the northern hemisphere and you take away all the lines, it's not very easy to determine where Canada starts and the United States ends. In fact, one realizes after a few moments that we're all Americans. It doesn't matter where you're from. With North America, South America, Central America, we're all connected. We're all living on this same little landmass. We only put these imaginary lines there we call countries and borders and whatnot, because that's what we do. But that's not reality. Nature doesn't care. So I suspect, without going into a lot of detail, a lot of the same observations we have here in the lower 48 and in other places are probably quite consistent with what a lot of people in Canada are experiencing as well. Now, keep in mind we have a greater population density. There's a lot of places in Canada that are remote. And let me tell you, being in Canada myself to some of those provinces, there might not be somebody for a couple hundred square miles. So, you might not have the if you will, level of reporting that we have here in sightings, just simply because you don't have the population density that we have. But make no mistake, UAPs don't delineate borders. They don't. It's not relevant. They don't fly around with maps in their car and make a determination. Oh, well, here's where the border begins, so we'll just show up over here. And I guess I'll probably leave it at that for that part of the conversation. But I know you got some other questions.
Do you find that the Canadian government does a better job at maybe keeping the citizens quiet? Because let's face it, we still believe in government up here. We're not, how can I put it? We don't ask a lot of questions unless it pertains to us. And this topic,
I have faith in the Canadian government. I've had the privilege of speaking with some people, off record, and they seem concerned too. And I do think that the Canadian government does have an inherent interest in the Canadian people, and I do believe that most of Canadian politicians have a sincere desire to serve the Canadian people. That's been my experience. Now, I can be proven wrong, and again, there's always bad apples, right? But as a whole, I've never had an experience where I've met somebody in the Canadian government and said, "Hey, we're going to keep this topic secret, and we're not going to tell anybody because we want to keep it secret." That hasn't been my experience. I'm not saying that hasn't been other people's experience, but it hasn't been mine. When you really get to talk to people, it's not even Canadian, it's anyone really from anywhere I've ever been. If you pull them aside and start having a conversation, they'll share with you things. And there you have it.
With 90 seconds to go before we have you, where can we see you again? Because we got used to seeing you with the TTSA. You're no longer there. You become a face for this topic on television. When do we get to see you?
Well, people should know that we're always working very hard behind the scenes. And it's usually when we're quietest, when we've got really things cooking in the kitchen. And this is no different. We are working very, very hard, Chris Mellon and myself and Sean and many, many, many others, that I think, we've just begun this effort. I don't think I'm going to be stopping anytime soon. I'd love to. I mean, it'd be great if I can, but I don't think we're there yet. And I think we have much more work to be done. So people shouldn't be surprised if they start seeing me in other areas. We've got 5 areas of concentration, and that is engaging our legislative branch. The second one is engaging our executive branch. The third is engaging our foreign friends and allies. The fourth area of emphasis is engaging media. And the fifth is engaging the public. And let's not forget that the public is probably the most important, because the executive branch, the legislative branch, and the media all are responsive to the people's will, or they should be anyways. And so that to me is critical. It's very important. And this is why I'm talking to your audience now. This is I'm not getting paid for this.
Right.
I'm not getting endorsed. I'm doing this because I feel it's important.
Lou, we got to wrap it. We got to wrap it up, my friend. Thank you so much for coming on Spaced Out Radio, Luis Elizondo. Up next, Sean Cahill will be joining us right here on the Mighty SOR. Great job, Lou. We'll give you a few claps.
Well, hopefully, if not for me, for you, people will give you a thumbs up. I really appreciate what you're doing, and I know you're working hard and staying up late to do these things, and it is. I mean it sincerely. It's really making a difference. Thank you sincerely and most humbly for what you're doing and for what your audience does.
We'll talk soon over other stuff that we were talking about.
Yes, sir.
All right. Take care.
Yes, sir. Take care.
Bye-bye. That wasn't bad. We got him to say that he's pretty much got aliens. We got him to say that. That was kind of cool. That was kind of cool. Oh, come on. Just play. Hate it when YouTube does this. Yeah, all right. Let's get Sean in here. Where is he?
Hey, you got me, Dave.
Hey, there you are, buddy. There you are.
Good evening, my friend.
How's the hair and beard combination?
They're fabulous. Apparently quite mystical, according to my friend Lou.
We almost got Lou to say that he's got aliens.
Well, that's neat. I must have missed that part.
Yeah.
Where's he got him? In
I'm kind of excited about that, man. Kind of excited about it. You listened to it, though, didn't you?
Oh, I caught 90% of it, but I think I missed that part.
Yeah, it was in the first half hour.
Oh, snap. Okay.
Yeah. Don't forget our YouTube audience can hear you.
Oh, yeah.
Now, what were we supposed to call you? The something lion?
I'm not copping to that. I can't remember. Somebody made a comment when we were out doing our test shoots and everything, and somebody said Buddhist lion, and then Lou started calling me the Mystic Lion, and
that's right.
Yeah, that. Yeah, I'm not signing on for that one.
That is brilliant, man. That is brilliant. You totally need to. Dude, you can't just get a nickname like that and not rock that. That is powerful. That is powerful.
I'll let the folks pin it on me if they think it's desirable, but well, I'm not one of those cats that ever thinks you give yourself a nickname. You know what I mean?
True. But you need some Mighty Moose beard oil, my sponsor. I'm using the winter blend tonight. I like to show my audience, if you go to mightymoosebeard.com and you talk to Gary the Dutchman, you'll never get a deal out of a Dutchman, except Gary will give you one if you use promo code SOR 2019. Remember, it's all in Canadian funds, and even for the ladies, you can rub this stuff, because it's all natural, in your hair, stops split ends from happening, keeps your hair nice, natural, and oily, the way it should be. mightymoosebeard.com. Check it on out. You can smell as good as the winter blend is. A little pepperminty, I would say. Smells like candy canes, to be honest. Smells like candy canes. So check it on out. mightymoosebeard.com. Gary the Dutchman will thank you for it. There we go. You know how it goes, Sean. You know how it goes.
If I didn't pay attention in time to my hair, I would look like a dandelion.
Oh, God. You should see me in the morning, man. It's like I wake up with serious Karen hair every morning. First thing I do when I wake up in the morning, can I speak to your manager? And I'm like, oh, no. It's okay.
Yours has grown back pretty quick.
It has. It has. It really has. It's amazing to watch how when Lou speaks, just watching the chat room, how it just stirs up the emotions in people. It's awesome. Sure. Just awesome. All right. You're welcome, Gary the Dutchman. We're on in about 35 seconds here.
The official party bar.
There's the G.
Spaced Out Radio.
Right there. So, is that a drum set?
Yeah, that's my living room, actually. Yeah, I had a friend of mine come down to visit. He finally got cooped up too much in the quarantine, and he gifted me a Roland drum set because I've always wanted to. I never picked up drums. I played piano, bass, keyboard.
Same as the guitar for me. Hold on, buddy. Here we go. We pass the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Thank you so much for tuning us in. My name is Dave Scott. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio. I want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter @Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on our show tonight talking UFOs, extraterrestrials, disclosure, whatever it may be. Sean Cahill now joins us, otherwise known by Lou as the Mystic Lion. Yes, the Mystic Lion, everyone. And trust me, if you saw his hair and beard combination, you'd be impressed. You really would. Sean, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dave. How are you doing, man?
I know I'm going to drive you nuts with that all night long. All night long. I appreciate you stepping on in because, originally we did have Lou scheduled for 2.5 hours, and then you and I got on the phone and you were like, dude, Lou's going through all this stuff, and I'm like, I can cut it back, but you got to come on. And you're like, really? Okay. So I appreciate you stepping on the ice, man.
I appreciate you. Man, because this is one of those, to put it simply, this is one of those those times where the work getting done is better offline than it would be online. So it's better that Lou's rested and well prepared to do what he has for him this week, and it's better for me to pinch hit in this case. So I'm happy to come on and help you help fill the time for you where you couldn't have Lou, and heck, you got him back for 2.5 more hours, man. So
oh God,
that's a bargain.
Just the fact that this is my first real in-depth conversation with him that I've had on the air, and you can tell, and I'm not just saying this to butt kiss or anything, but you can sure tell he's grinding his teeth through a lot of those answers, not only because he knows he's the face of the public, but, there's just so much that you could tell that he would want to say, but he has to play the politically correct card. And that's got to be hard on a person and their psyche.
I know that it is. I know that it weighs heavy on him. In fact, I was quite happy tonight to see how candid he was with everybody. That he's been able to open up a little bit more. I don't know that that what folks are going to expect is ever going to be met, but that's the hardest lesson I learned in life. I think is that most of the time our expectations are not what we inflate them to be ahead of time. But in this case, I think that that Lou, I know that it's weighed heavy on Lou. The ability to maneuver freely in this case, it's not easy. It's not as simple as that. And I think there's still a lot more understanding to bring to the table. So I kind of don't mean to leave it hanging there.
No, but as somebody who is on, and I don't want to stay too long on this topic, but as somebody who is on Lou's inside, and I'm going to assume that the public probably knows that you and Lou have developed a good kinship and friendship over the last couple of years. And, as somebody who has grown close to him, and you see the criticism, you see the words that I have said, you've seen or heard the words that other people have said about whether or not we can believe this guy, or does he have ufology's best interests at heart. I can say, my attitude has changed on that. But for you, knowing him personally, where you've shared very intimate conversations, does the guy get a bad rap in the UFO field, or does he get what he feels is necessary right now, and he's got big shoulders to take it? I
think it's a combination of a little bit of both, because Lou is a grown-up. Lou knows what his background is, where he came from, and that people are going to harshly judge him based on details of his life instead of taking a man as a whole. But I also think that there was a learning curve, I think, for Lou. I think at first, I had the luxury of spending about a year in between TTSA's initial announcements, the New York Times article, and then finally meeting Lou and then getting to spend time with him in Mexico on the investigation. And in that time, I had spent a lot of time studying what we call ufology and the greater community around it. I learned who you were. I learned who a lot of other people were. I'd known who folks like Rich Dolan and Grant Cameron were from my interest in the field prior to. But I let that wane a long time ago, as you and I talked about on a previous show. When I met Lou, he didn't have a good grasp on the idea that ufology, which I'm not a fan of the word, but in general, there's a constituency there. There's a loose tribe or group of individuals that are sharing a greater experience or viewpoint that do kind of move in mass. And I told him, listen, these are probably the most informed folks in the world outside of the reports and other things that you helped helm and that others like yourself did inside the government. I said, somewhere in the middle is going to be the truth. Mm-hmm. And Lou, how do I put this? He shocked the heck out of me. And because he actually immediately then began learning about these things. And he came to me one day and he basically was like, do you think I should get a Twitter account? And I was like, well, I don't know, man. That's entirely up to you. You know, that's going to mean interfacing with folks and talking to folks every day. And I said, but on the other hand, you can finally speak directly to people. And those kinds of things are brand new for somebody like Lou and somebody like myself coming out of the military. None of us speak for ourselves or speak for unless you're a public affairs officer or the commanding officer, you almost never speak about the group or what's going on. There are people that do that properly. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no kidding. One of the reasons why, and I didn't get a chance to really delve into this with Lou, and because our time got cut short, and I was going to deflect this part of the conversation with you. You're from the military background. You're from the governmental side of everything. I'm from the media side and the woo side, man, because, as everybody knows, I'm doing this because I'm an experiencer. Couldn't find the answers, so I figured, well, I know how to ask a question or two. Maybe I'll just throw my hat in the ring, and thankfully we've gained a little bit of an audience from it. But I know in private conversations that you and I have had, you have really been expressing an emotion about trying to bridge the gap between the scientific governmental side of the community comparative to the experiencer side, because I think in the end, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that you think that the experiencers have just as much say in this as the government side.
Well, I think that's absolutely true, because this is not a topic that's owned by the government. Truth isn't owned by the government. And setting baseline on topics isn't owned by the government. In our society, we would be willing to accept authority on certain subjects, and this being one of them, from other areas, I believe. I think if Harvard, Stanford, a major university or a major think tank or conglomerate of multinational companies, for example, were to come out with a blanket statement in regards to what we call disclosure, we could probably accept it. But I think on the same token, we turn and we look at this edifice of government, and we think that that there's this lock and key to a specific box that's going to give us the answers we want. And my answer to that is it's just not like that. And there may be avenues to free information that has been compartmentalized. That's another subject. But when it comes to looking at the government as an edifice, that edifice doesn't exist. That military-industrial complex is me. and I'm somebody's brother, somebody's dad, somebody's cousin, somebody's neighbor. I'm just that dude that doesn't get his trash out on time, and you see running through the neighborhood in his bathrobe trying to get the cans to the other side of the street. We're just folks. And when my 20 years was up, I went home. And the only reason we're here now is because of how interesting and dynamic and amazing this topic is, and I had a chance to help. But there is the military-industrial complex that people are angry with, in my opinion, is the one that was post-World War II that was still really frightened of what just went down and began an investigation that they kept. In my opinion, I can't prove this, but I think any of us who have done, I can't whip out the documentation here on the show, but I think most of us who have studied the subject realize that you can look at this and see programs being folded into the black, renamed. Blue Book itself went away, and the same people kept working it for a certain amount of time. So I don't mean that disingenuously. If we got off the freeway on that right now and started hunting down, the messengers and the whistleblowers and things like that, we're never going to get anywhere. The sins of the father have to be washed away at some point in this case, I believe. I think that if we narrow in on the people in government and in the military today who inherited secret programs or inherited other people's, frankly, just, crap sandwiches that no one wanted to deal with. Because I think you and I have just said this to each other offline. If this was easy, you and I'd already know what this was. If the phenomenon were truly not hiding itself from us, it wouldn't be a question. And we also wouldn't have a community that's full of 100 different names and backgrounds and stories. And I think that's kind of what Lou was talking about earlier, is as somebody who is affiliated with government, who is interested in speaking to witnesses and experiencers, I still don't know how to take many of their stories, let me say, and bring that to a multimedia audience yet. And bring that into a... Go ahead.
But is it about bringing it to a multimedia audience, or is it about something different? Because most experiencers, Sean,
sure,
whether it's from the government, whether it's from people like Lou, or whether it's from anybody, all they want is a little piece of sanity back. Many people, and I've talked to hundreds of experiencers over the tenure of this show, many have lost friends, not death, but just because they weren't believed. They thought that their friend had gone crazy. Many have lost family members, jobs. I know one lady out of British Columbia here, she can't keep a job because literally she is taken 1 to 3 times a week. And her children are taken. She can't sleep at night. She lives a paranoid life.
Okay.
So a lot of those people, they just want someone to say to them who is in power, who's in a position like Lou, or in a position of government authority to say, I believe you.
Well, let me. This is where a lot of folks, and I think, because I was looking at the chat too, and with the obvious salty trolls aside, I think people may question that I'm throwing a question back at you with this.
No, please.
Let's define a few things, because I think what we lack is baseline, and we all want authority to set baseline. So, like when you ask Lou, why don't people ask about 1947, or that's what I tend to call Roswell, just because I find it less polarizing. Why don't you ask about that? It's because I don't believe that people in the media and in the pool actually know that that's something worthy of asking about, because history has put all those things to bed for the bigger audience. So when I think of this as, how do we best take folks like yourself and your audience, and folks like myself and Luis and people of that nature, how do we take what we may or may not know as a collective and present that to the other 7 billion people who don't believe us? Because I got news for you. Folks don't believe us government folks almost as much as they don't believe the experiencer community if they're not a part of it. So I guess what I'm saying here is, like, so when you and I say taken, you and I have openly discussed, offline, now we're going to discuss on the show, well, what are the circumstances? Is this a daylight event, or were you in bed? And while I don't care, I think they all need to get put in the report. They are all going to get columns in the spreadsheet. And the ones that occur for people when they're lying down, unconscious, eyes closed, meditating, etc., that have no other witnesses, they have to go in a special column, and that's a great deal of them. And for me, the daylight ones, without other witnesses corroborating secondary and tertiary data points on them, they're not a lot different from the person who woke up in the morning and remembers a dream in its entirety that is so fresh they feel it's a memory. So how do we differentiate? Because I don't even know that the folks that have studied this in a governmental fashion have even a concept that I don't believe that they're all in the conceptual boat with us that those things are connected. And not to pontificate for too long, but we as a community, you have one group over here who thinks that the phenomena is phenomena. You have other, and not to steal from somebody's upcoming YouTube, but you have other people who think it's phenomenon. You have other people that think it's a spectrum of events, and some who believe that it's completely a ruse, and some that feel that it's completely religious based. So again, that constituency within the UFO community is very disparate. Where do we even begin that conversation? And a lot of people that I talk to are so into their personal narrative that they are aware of. Let me put it that way without disparaging anyone. And it's so far away from the narrative the rest of us are familiar with that people do call BS right away and turn away. And you know I've lost friends in the same way that you have, and you know that I'm distant from family members in the same way for the same reasons. So that's where I appeal to your audience, because I can't just turn around and appeal to the military. You know, there's no number for them. There's no P.O. box for the military that I can write them and go be nicer to the experiencer community. But I want to see us all actually come to the table together and start talking about these things in the open.
Right. And I can see that, Sean, as we got about 6.5 minutes before we got to go to break at the top of the hour. I can see that. But the level of frustration that many people have, whether it's the experiencer or whether it's the person who has, a vested interest in curiosity, learning about this subject, they're tired of people taking the roundabout roads. They want that direct highway right through the mountain of ufology. Mm-hmm. And look, I'm not, going to say that I'm naive enough to understand that there needs to be a pattern here. There needs to be a road that's paved, but the people are tired of going around the mountain view when that mountain never ends. They feel they're ready for answers.
Let me ask you a question, because you and I have a lot of answers for ourselves.
Yes.
We get to be because of where we are and the amount of people we get to talk to, we've been able to form a lot of conclusions for ourselves that give us a certain peace of mind. But you and I have shared that we have questions that are missing still. Okay. Or answers that are missing, I should say. I mean this in all sincerity. Let's take what's one answer we would accept? Because we talk about ETs, we talk about aliens. We can branch out into and say multidimensionals. Other people want to say ultra-terrestrials. Some want to talk about their gods. Some want to say that they're all humans from the future. All of these different groups are waiting for someone to finally, say whether the groundhog came out and saw its shadow or not, and whether it matches their assumptions. And I just don't know. I think that if I looked out upon a sea of thousands of people with a million opinions, and I only had one opinion or three opinions, I'm not saying that that's how it is, but how are we ever going to get close to satisfying anybody when I don't think anybody really has a good answer? I was listening to I'm good friends with the folks that run It's Redacted. And I was watching one of their videos last night, and it was about a sighting from out in the Atlantic. I believe it was from a tanker ship, but the entire bridge crew all described wildly different craft. So it takes me back to, I'm not obfuscating the question. I'm really serious when I say, who are we going to trust to answer this? If even when you get three people looking at the same thing, they don't see the same thing. And we've got thousands of reports that taking the religiosity out of it and taking, the mythical and channeled works and things like that aside, even the the witness statements are nowhere near a cohesive whole. So I guess what I'm asking you, Dave, is how do we define, who do we look to for the sieve to pour that through? Is it psychology, psychiatry? I'm serious, because I think you and I both know not everyone's telling the truth, and not everyone even has a legitimate story. And that's an uncomfortable fact, because none of us can identify those people.
I honestly think it starts with Lou. And I hate to put that.
See, I think a lot of people.
I hate to put that pressure on him, but I do believe it starts with Lou, because Lou.
Well, it makes an assumption, though.
It is an assumption, but if we can also assume, much like he said earlier in the show, where he pretty much stated, if reading between the lines, that he's had his own experiences, what would this do for this field in credibility, and even on a media standpoint? If Uncle Lou came out and said, hey, I've been there. I've done that. This is what happened.
Yeah.
Right? Or maybe it's Chris Mellon. Maybe it's someone else, whoever took Lou's job at the Pentagon.
Mm-hmm. I think you're right, but I think that those, hypothetically, again, we're always being careful because we don't want to speak for other people. But assuming that those are true statements and that those experiences exist, I think you're absolutely right. But I think it's only going to last so long until if it's used improperly. I know that has got to sound like, oh, we're so tired of waiting to hear this, but we're not talking any big reveal, because I don't know what they know. I make some of the same assumptions that you make because of their positions. I assume that people I assume that the defense reports that we saw that lacked conclusion at least had post-briefing conversations, if that makes sense. So I think a lot of us have an assumption that there is probably a level of understanding that we're not seeing in print, in journals, and things like that. The question is how do we get folks like Lou and the other people that participated in these programs to be able to talk about their conclusions about these compartmentalized programs? Because that's what I'm most interested in. I've already read all the reports. I know, just like many of us in this community have, and I know what was studied and I know what was taken seriously. And having been in the military, I also know that $22 million might buy you one hammer, but it might fund an office for years. And there's a lot of things that you can do with that money, and you could blow it off easily. But at the same time, those reports are incredibly compelling. And if you follow the pedigree backwards, it's even more compelling. And the folks that are listening to this show in many circles know exactly what I'm talking about. They've read their own reports, they've FOIA'd their own documents, and they've built their own conclusions out of this. So I don't want to act like I don't know what you're talking about. But at the same time, how the heck do we? Everybody that's ever come out and quote unquote talked about this on deathbed, etc. No one ever. We rarely respect deathbed confessions. I don't find that to be the gold standard of confession. I've done enough study on hospice and other things like that, and I mean, heck, read Leslie Kean's latest book. It's not necessarily the time to take people's word on everything that's happening. It's an extraordinary time to pay attention to each other's heart and souls. But I digress. We need baseline, and I know Lou can't walk out on a stage and set baseline on this.
True.
So how do we? Do we data mine the government records, or do we start fresh? I think it's going to be a combination of both.
Sean, I'm going to get you to hold right there, okay? Because we are going to go to break here at the top of the hour. Sean Cahill, continuing on a very, very interesting night here on Spaced Out Radio, following up after Luis Elizondo, experiencers versus science and the government. Is there a bridge that can be gapped between the two? We'll find out when we come back with Sean Cahill right after this on Spaced Out Radio. All right, man, I'm just going to run my dog out. We got 6 minutes, okay?
You betcha.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at MightyMooseBeard.com today.
For the price of 1 cup of coffee a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. The Space Travelers Club is a place where you can interact with other listeners, either live during the show or on our great forum. We want your stories, pictures, comments, and ideas. You'll get live video streams, exclusive content, and be a part of our newsletter. Stay in touch with everything SOR. The Space Travelers Club is just $5 a month at spacedoutradio.com.
Hello, Space Travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month and follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio, and while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
The party is always on at the Moose Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is where you want to be when visiting Canada's West Coast. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose cranks up the rock while serving some of the best rated food in the city. The menu starts at $6.95. Why party anywhere else in Vancouver when the Moose is right there? Get your horns up and rock with the Moose, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
We are scouring the world for the most intriguing stories of your day. Take the time to read up on the SOR Newswire, where our team, led by Captain Shirk, will deliver to you some of the best paranormal and supernatural news, along with some stories that will blow your mind from the weird to the wacky. It's the news outside the news that piques interest, and that's what we're looking to deliver to you. The SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Hello everyone, this is Ryan Stacy from the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TESSA. We're glad to team up with Spaced Out Radio to help investigate your experiences on the SOR Sightlines Report. Together, we'll investigate the strange sightings and occurrences you've had. We're looking for answers just like you. So fill out a Sightlines report on the Spaced Out Radio website and let's figure out what's going on together.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thor, and I have to tell you, I love...
All right, man.
I
am back.
How are the dogs?
Good. My problem is my dogs are getting older, and if I don't let them out, especially my one dog, he's doing his business at night in the house. So, got to rush them out.
Yeah.
Do that thing. Let them be dogs and continue on from there. Yeah. So, that's kind of what has been going on.
Oh, so some folks in your chat, I don't think they knew who I was, but I saw it for a minute. But yeah, I was on Princeton during the Tic Tac incident. I know some people are like, who's this cat?
Yeah. That's good times back then, eh?
Oh, man, that was... I tell you, that one of these days we'll start digging into everything. I mean, it was 4 or 5 months later I saw my first black triangle. And that was just... Well, I shouldn't say my first. I should say my only, actually.
I've seen two of them. The one, Sean, was so massive. So massive.
Yeah, this one was huge, and no lights. That was what got me is, no lights and huge.
Yeah. But the first one I saw, watching the undercarriage completely lit up, like it didn't have the 3 dots. It had these silver orbs with orange rods connecting, and we had seen one of those silver orbs, almost looking like the old school dumbbell. You know, where you have the silver orbs on the end connected with the orange dumbbell or the orange rod, and it was just pretty much it. Much it, and then watching that black triangle hover silently over top of my house with 2 friends. Yeah, it was low, dude. It was low. My Catholic friend, my Catholic friend, she was like totally like hiding, trying to hide. Here we go. Hold on.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, KPNL, and Revolution Radio. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. What do you got for us, Clam? Where is it? Of course, there's that right there. Jararaka. Jararaka is your password. Nobody really knows what it means, but the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Sean Cahill is with us tonight. If you're not familiar with who he is, he's part of, let's face it, he's very good friends with Luis Elizondo. He was also on the USS Princeton at the time of the Nimitz encounter back in 2004. Sean, welcome back.
Hey.
Good to have you here.
It's really good to be here, man. Good to be here, man. I like talking to you. You're easy to talk to.
Well, it's the hair we have in common. But
I just stare at your face the whole time. I just keep you up on it. I'm thinking of casting you on the big screen next time, just staring at you.
We have one listener that puts us on his 180-inch television. That is That is one massive Dave mushroom head.
So I know you like talking about hair and beards, man. I got to be honest. I used to wonder when I was going to go all gray like my dad did, and apparently in the last 6 or 8 months it happened. And so I'm looking at my hair in the mirror, and like this whole thing up here is all gray at the roots, and I'm like, it's going to go like that. It's going to be a couple weird years with the hair.
You just got to let it go. Sean, you are a proud military veteran, and even though I'm Canadian, we have a lot of American listeners. Thank you for your patriotic service to your country and everything like that. I know the side you come from. And on the governmental, the military side, and trying to get to the scientific facts of this all with the phenomena. But we have a real bridge to try and gap here between the scientific side, the governmental side, admitting that they know what's going on, and then the experiential side. And we've talked a little bit about that the last half hour. But in this half hour, where I kind of want to go with this is, when you look at the experiencers out there, a lot of them feel, and we've brought attention to this, that right now, over the last 3 years, they have really become the forgotten part of ufology. They're the voices that have been silenced, whether or not that's for good, because many people, they say, look, we know this is happening. We appreciate the stories, but it's irrelevant to today's research. Let me rephrase this. is that information from what you have seen information that needs to be pushed to the side? People who claim to have communication with Greys or downloads or claim to have flown the ship.
Mm-hmm. You're asking whether or not I think that should be discarded? No, I don't. Not in the least. But what we're going to have to do is develop a means to access that data and access that constituency and those witnesses in a way that's going to present the data in a scientific manner that academia, the military, the whoever we want to have look at these problems, whether it's the civilian sector, et cetera. I think we all know that's a bigger question for other people is where this information eventually truly gets broken down and studied. But when we begin to ask for that data, it's going to take a very long time to get that data together. And I think what we're looking at here is we're realizing that there's a lot of people who have, again, we use the word experienced. And I always want to throw in there that I think this is a spectrum of events. So I don't think that someone who is having who lays down at night and believes that they are taken from their body for whatever reason, because taken indicates that it wasn't of their own free will. So if someone lays down at night and feels that they were taken and wakes up in the morning and that's their memory, I don't know where on the pie chart, graph, etc., that's going to go with someone who claims their car stopped working in the middle of a field and an obvious solid object with occupants that exited encountered them. To me, those are very different, and not just in classification of their popular CE status. But we're dealing with two things that when we say that these people both experienced these things in consciousness, it's because we're generalizing to an extent that everything we experience is in consciousness. But where are the boundaries of this conversation? Where are we going to set baseline? How is this going to be parceled out? Because there are aspects of this that are psychological, psychiatric, related to quantum physics, most likely, possibly related to things that that the masses are being introduced to via popular culture and things like the Marvel universe, which are very simplified explanations of far more way out there topics. Like a multiverse is an easy thing for a lot of us to wrap our heads around. We just think it's like jumping from one hard drive to another with a semi-similar story, one where Dave has no beard, or he's got I know, it's like the shock. I think we understand that, but that's not exactly what quantum physics shows us. You know what I mean? It's not that simple. So all of these things, what we have right now is an ology, for lack of a better word, that's made up of vast and disparate assumptions from objective and subjective means, old governmental data, and some conspiracy theory. Who do we call to say we're going to convene an encyclopedia of ufology to set baseline on a subject that has eluded all of us? And we're going to call in academia. We're going to call in governmental folks. And frankly, we're going to have to go to folks like you and Grant and other people to say, okay, what experiencers should we talk to first?
Okay, so with that, if you had the magic conch to draw the pyramid on down on how we bridge that gap, in Sean Cahill's perfect UFO world, where would you start with that?
Okay. The first thing that I would do is I would have, frankly, the United States government very quickly establish a permanent office of some kind. At this point, I would personally, I don't want people to think I'm informed on this. You asked me to float my dream boat, I'm going to do it. I would have Space Force, probably a conglomerate of, probably a liaison from an umbrella of intelligence agencies, international help from it. I would have them form another oversight committee. I would have a office in place with a proper budget that was not one that was going to respond to UFO incidents or anything like that, but one that was, I don't want to say another Condon report, or I don't want to say another Brookings report or something like that, or I don't want to say a 9/11 commission type thing. But I do mean a truly academic approach where we're going to say we agree that the last couple of years of involvement from people like Luis Elizondo, and that the information that has since trickled down and come out via FOIA and public affairs announcements and things like that, we've finally been able to build an understanding that disclosure has occurred. It never occurred at a press conference by the President of the United States or by anyone that we were willing to take authority from, but it has happened. And so now that that has happened, now that we agree that there is a phenomenon of any kind that we have not acknowledged before that falls into what we previously called ufology, we, as a species, we have to say this is real and we're going to set baseline. Now, who can do that? MUFON failed at it. All the other civilian agencies that came before that stated they were going to do this and began data collection and investigation failed. No offense to the people who were courageous enough to put their reputations on the line before this. But now I would turn to the U.S. government. I would call your congressman. I would write to your senator. I would do those things and talk to them and say, look, you've told us this is real already. We've seen the governmental reports to say that this technology is so out there and esoteric that you've studied everything from anti-gravity to consciousness. And now we want to start getting reports on all of that. We want you to go back through what ATIP did. We want you to re-examine all of those things out in the open with the rest of us. And again, this is going to take years to do. So, because I don't know which office in any government we turn to get those answers from. I don't think those exist. I think they're disparate reports, and we have to get started on. It's not a wait till tomorrow, or wait for the truth. It's when are we going to take responsibility for the truth in the now, and stop looking to the past to inform us, or someone who's coming from the future, or some grandchild of ours to figure this out for us. We need to start the work on the infrastructure to make this a science immediately.
Okay, so that's the scientific side, but where do you bridge the gap to the experiencer? Where do their stories come in? Because MUFON, and I agree with you, they're a mess right now that I don't think they know how to get back on track with it. And I've talked to friends of mine who are high up in MUFON about this, and there are certain things we've agreed with, and there's certain things we've disagreed with. But, that reporting site, because the people, if you break it down to layman's terms, I think the people are expecting, even though I'm in Canada, they are expecting the President of the United States to come out and say, we have made contact with an extraterrestrial presence not of this world, much like Robert Bigelow did on 60 Minutes that nobody paid attention to. In my opinion, still some of the most important 6 minutes in humankind's history put on television. I really do believe that. Right? But for the laymen out there who've had the experience or saw lights in the sky, or maybe they just have a curiosity, they want that generalized person, the president, to come out and say, they're here. And go ahead, please.
Well, that's the assumption. So I don't mean to bust your chops here. Okay, but that was kind of a loaded approach to it. You use the term extraterrestrial, but I'll just say esoteric or wild or something like that. Okay, misunderstood or whatever, because I don't like any of the old words. They all have too much baggage, whether it's paranormal, UFO, etc. So this anomalous activity, I agree with you. Having the President of the United States come out and state that unidentified aerial, and I like saying unidentified anomalous activity, frankly, or just anomalous activity. Any form of it, if the President of the United States came out and said that he was forming that the task force had given this report and they're forming this agency for this to study this, would that be enough? Would the government of the United States, without saying, we think it's this thing? Because I'm still not convinced, Dave, because again, we can't line up, you can't pick me 10 experiencers, including myself, that are going to tell you this is the same thing. So it would be very irresponsible for the President of the United States to tell us what this is. if we can't line up 10 people who all claim that they should be the ones to be put in front to tell the rest of us about it, and we can't all agree on it, we just know something's happening. So I think that what the answer that would be most useful to us is to have the President of the United States state that we are investigating this topic, and that there will be more and subsequent and hopefully guaranteed reports to the public.
Now, Lou tends...
and then academia can fall in behind that, and the experiencers can fall in behind that.
Mm-hmm. Academia, though, I got to be honest with you, the way they have treated this subject, I don't know if, outside of people like Gary Nolan and Eric Davis and people of that ilk and nature who have investigated, I don't know if academia really understands or quantifies the magnitude of what is really going on here.
I'm gonna posit that I'm gonna put my foot in my mouth here. I'm going to posit the non-experiencers in general don't take this seriously.
True.
And I think that's a very broad statement, because that's very different. Again, I think this is a very broad spectrum of things that end up sharing a medium, and that we're not looking necessarily at one thing. But I could be wrong. This could be one thing that is so incredibly powerful that it just gives us all a completely, it's this billion-faceted diamond of a thing that every time we look at it, it looks different. Mm-hmm. But Dave, if I thought I knew that, man, I'd write the book. If I thought there was a book to be written, I'd just go write it.
Okay, but you look at Avi Loeb with Oumuamua. Mm-hmm. He is claiming, and in his studies of this, whatever it was, he is claiming that it is alien. To use that
what
term.
Does this, what? Sure, but what does this? What?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm with you. No. In his what he's describing is exactly alien.
Exactly.
That is a structure that, whether you believe it has transited the system or whether you believe that our solar system transited an area of space where it was already stationary, which is what some folks believe. I agree that rock or structure or whatever it was, I don't want to say I knew what it was. We don't even have a photograph of it. We all think we know what it looks like from artist renderings, but that's not what it looked like. I'm with Abby that is alien, but at the same time, the people that want to conflate that want to conflate Oumuamua with a silver anti-gravity sphere, those two things have nothing in common. And I can say that Oumuamua is alien. I can say that if we identified a rock or a stellar body of some kind that we believe came in from a trajectory outside the heliopause, that's an alien thing. But I don't know what a sphere in the sky is until it comes down and the guy gets out and shows me the deck logs and says, I'm Glip Glop and my rank is lieutenant. And could you alert the media? I don't mean to be facetious.
No, the comment that I was trying to make there is Avi Loeb took a lot of heat from the scientific and academic community, and thank goodness he has dug his cleats into the dirt in the batter's box and put his name, his profession, and his school of Harvard on the ball with this.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right, and I missed what you were saying, and you're right. He's
that's
courageous as hell. I've had some folks trying to get me in touch with Avi, and unfortunately, I haven't had a chance to reach out to him yet, and I haven't formulated the conversation that I'd like to have with them, or the use that we would have by talking to each other right now. But I'm with you. There's a lot of folks out there. Okay, so let's talk aliens. Let's talk extraterrestrials. Let's not beat around the bush with this. I think that if any of us were presented with what we would commonly call a spacecraft and a body of what we would commonly call a gray, and we were given a simple explanation, I think a lot of us would believe it. I think a lot of other people the kind of people that are prone to think that things are the opposite of what they're shown, like that, that we've, whether you agree or not with a moon landing or flat Earth or those things where people seem to go in the opposite direction of what the rest of us are, some people are just contrarian in their views in a wild manner. But let's talk about aliens. If it's always been from Earth, is it alien? I would say the answer to that is no. If it preceded us on this Earth, is it alien? I would say no. Again, Lou talked about how some folks would say the word alien and think that has to do with borders.
He mentioned that.
From your standpoint, my standpoint, and every other, pardon the phrase, tax-paying human with an email address, all these things seem perfectly alien to me. But whether that means, when we say extraterrestrial, let's break it down in the Marvel universe again. Are we talking about an entity that's from this Earth, a different Earth? Is an alien from a different Earth in a different universe that has found a way to somehow enter this one to exploit the resources of another universe? Would we consider that an alien if they're only off by an isotopic ratio from you and I? I don't even know if we'd be able to tell them apart with, how you're going to find that out in the moment beyond the difference in technology, et cetera. But again, okay, now something's from Mars. We'd call that an alien pretty easy. But is it important if it's from Mars in this universe or another one? And then when we start adding all of these variables and the way that we claim consciousness is affected, many groups claim that these forces, entities, or this phenomena have an ability to affect human consciousness. If that's the case, and coupled with the other 5 observables to include, anti-gravity, and frankly, when you start messing with those 5 and possibly more observables all at once, what you're really dealing with is possibly an interdimensional time machine. Or a level of technology that's able to utilize that. And if you're talking about a level of technology that can also access or change human consciousness, this is a serious question. How would any of us ever know what the hell we're looking at if that's the tool set that we're up against?
No, and I understand that, as we only got 2 minutes left with you, but I mean, it opens up so many questions. And I think if some of those answers came out, okay, do we have time travel? Do we have jump rooms? Do we have bodies from Roswell? Do we have aliens like J-Rod walking around Area 51? I know there's a lot of conspiracy and conjecture and rumors around this, but just answering a few of those questions from the deepest part of the top secret vaults would give people a matter of belief to open up that trust.
I think that we are seeing. I will agree with you when you put all of this on Lou's shoulders. I will agree with you that he is the knife edge that has pried this open. And I don't know where I am back on that blade or that hilt, but I'm part of that knife edge that intends to keep sticking under the edge of the subject until it pops open into the daylight. I think we're getting really close to that. I think that, and look, man, can we swear on your show? Because I really want to say, okay, and I won't. There's a lot of BS wrapped up in this topic. And it's about one of the only things that gets me fired up is when someone wants to, and I'm not talking about making a living, man. A lot of people have mistaken the way I feel about this with squeezing dollars out of this with BS. And I'm angry about it. And we've seen a lot of people come out and they get proprietary and they get tribal with it. But let the chips fall where they may, man. There's a lot of people have been lying to us. Our brethren have been lying to us. And all of us need to find those BSers. And we need to hold them accountable and then pry this truth out, man. We're ready. I think all of us are ready. And tomorrow I have a roundtable with a bunch of really good folks about pushing out more activists, more activism, really getting engaged in this and getting their governments and their local folks engaged, less so about the entertainment aspect. And I'm really looking forward to sharing that.
Sean, I want to say thank you so much for coming on this last hour of the show before we have to head up to Vancouver and go right across Canada. You're a great guy, and I'm glad that I could call you a friend and someone who I can, bounce some of these ideas off. You're one of the good guys in this field, man, and keep up the great work.
Thank you, my friend. I really look forward to coming up there to Canada, and I really look forward to hopefully involving you in some of this work because you're a very heartfelt individual. You bring these two communities together in a way that I have never seen anyone else do, and I appreciate you, Dave. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks to your audience.
Thank you. Sean Cahill, everyone. Coming up next, we are going to join Vancouver here on The Shift with Shane and the SOR Newswire and the Thought of the Dave. Stay tuned. Thank you, bro. Appreciate that.
Hey, man.
We'll give you a
Thank
few
you.
claps for coming on.
Shoot. No, man. I would do anything for Lou, for the peace and solace he's helped bring to my life. And I know that there's probably people in the chat going, hey, sucker, that's what we want too. And I get it. If I could invite everybody to hang out with Lou for a week, I would. I hope that we can bring a lot of this out into the light, man. I really appreciate you. The conversations you and I have offline are highly helpful to me. So
yeah, man. Anything you need. The one thing that I will always try and do, for the sake of my audience, is I will never recommend people or talk about things that I don't believe in, so.
Well, the most important thing to me is harm reduction, and I know that you understand that, and I just want people to be able to see the world for what it is.
For sure.
Hey,
all right, bro. Take care.
Have a good night, man.
Good night. Sean Cahill, everyone. Vancouver's going to be calling here momentarily. I haven't even got Shirky Poo's news up yet. Holy cow. I am so behind right now. She's going to give me an angry granny. I'm going to get angry grannied here in no time if I don't get the news up. Oh, there they are. That always scares me. Hey, guys.
Dave Scott, Spaced Out Radio. How's it going, Dave?
Good, buddy. How are you?
Not too bad. Excited to have you back on the radio here. Missed you.
Oh, that's what we do around here. That's what we do.
Right.
I started a new feature on Tuesday nights when we're not on with you. We bring out the Magic 8 Ball, and we ask... audience ask questions to the Magic 8 Ball to make sure that, there's, psychic portions to the show now. Psychic portions.
That's really cool.
Yeah, that's what we do. That's how we roll.
That's really cool. That's a really cool bit of audience interaction too, and very, very, very cosmic. I like it.
For sure. I'm ready. Cool. We're coming out here in about just over 3 minutes, and then I'll be ready for you guys.
Okay, yeah, so around, 36-ish as usual. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good, Dave. We will hook up with you then.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, thanks, Dave.
.com. Virtuo by Nespresso. Redefining coffee. Savor a new morning ritual. Innovative technology means preparing your perfect cup of coffee has never been so simple. Allowing you to start your day in the most exceptional way. Virtuo, your morning coffee redefined. Nespresso, what else?
I'm Dr. Ed Wong from Apple Dental Implant Centers. We've all missed the joy of spending time with family and friends recently. Don't let missing teeth cause you to lose out on any more. Our experienced team is here to help you make a new smile part of your new normal, with dental implant options starting at under $1,000. Our 9 Lower Mainland locations are open with COVID safety protocols in place. Change your smile, change your life. Visit appledentalimplants.com.
Hi, I'm David George. Concrete installations or repairs can be done any time of the year. So right now is a great time to call Avante Concrete about your residential or commercial concrete project. Avante's experienced craftsmen are hard at work right through the fall and winter using only the best...
Why do I got their commercials on? What am I doing? Thank goodness that'll be edited out. The 8 Ball literally does not lie, Brian. Does not lie. Okay? The 8 Ball did not lie. You're causing strife here for many who understand that when the 8-ball is a Yankees fan and doesn't believe in the stinking no good ought to be tossed out of the MLB New York Mets, all right, I have to agree with that. I have to agree with that. Just saying. We've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for joining us. In a moment, we're going to hook up with Shane and the shift out of Vancouver on we'll go right across Canada just to talk a little bit of aliens because that never hurts anybody. Let's just go there right now. Let's just go there right now. See where Shane is. See where Shane is. There he is.
Dave Scott into the program here and see what's happening. Dave Scott, spacedoutradio.com. What's up, brother?
How's your beard?
No, it's gone.
Why?
Yeah, okay.
I would have never agreed to this segment if I would have known such tragedy to your luscious face.
Oh, thanks, buddy. I'm a seasonal beard grower, so typically I kind of grow from about August till February. Usually, and then I sort of take her off. So, yeah, no, it's all gone. How's your beard?
It's growing. It's growing. I'll be honest with you. I'm sick of it. I am sick of it.
Are you?
Yes. You know what? It's almost time.
What makes you sick of your beard, though? Like, what truly makes you sick of the beard? What is it? The itchy? Does it?
No.
The hair gets long and it tickles your ears.
It's the fact in my small community, due to COVID, there is nobody trimming beards properly, and my beard needs to be sculpted, and I'm really bad with clippers.
Oh, really? Hey, you can't get not a good barber?
Bud, look where I live.
Okay, well, tell everybody where you live.
I live in a small community of 108 Mile Ranch, British Columbia, which is literally a stone's throw from 100 Mile House, British Columbia, which means that we don't get a lot of people who are trained to cut beards around here.
All right. Well,
yeah.
You're so deep in the woods, you think you would actually have experts at beards there.
You would think.
I guess maybe nobody cuts them.
You would think.
Yeah. All right. Well, Dave Scott, Spaced Out Radio, where we talk about the world of the woo. It's been a couple of weeks, brother, so I'm so glad to have you back, and there is so much for us to get into. Where are we going to start today?
Well, we're going to start from just a couple of days ago, where American Airlines flight going from Cincinnati to New Mexico nearly got rammed by an unidentified flying object. So the pilot radioed into tower going into New Mexico, seeing if there was something that was in the sky around them, because this thing came within feet of the Airbus A320 that they were flying for American Airlines. But what he didn't know, the pilot that is that his radio traffic was being recorded by a gentleman who does airline blogs named Steve Douglas. And Mr. Douglas recorded the pilot saying, "Do you have any targets up here? We just had something go right over top of us." And then he says, "I hate to say this, but it looked like a long cylindrical object that almost looked like a cruise missile type of thing moving very fast. It went right over top." Now, here's the funny part about it happening today. American Airlines, who usually when subjects like this, any airline in the world will say, they don't know what they're talking about, or they'll deny it and say it was a weather balloon or seagulls or condors or whatever it may be. All right. They actually are saying, yeah, well, our pilots had an incident, and that they've gone on to say for any additional questions, We encourage you, as in the public, to reach out to the FBI. So apparently they had a debrief with the flight crew, and additional information was received, and they confirmed that this radio transmission of whatever it was on Flight 2292 was buzzing this airplane in the sky. Now, for many people out there, including Luis Elizondo, who we just had on the air earlier, he ran the ATIP program, and many of your listeners will know we've mentioned that name before on this portion of the show. He believes that this is potentially one of those tic-tac type of craft that we saw in the USS Nimitz videos, and Luis actually went on to say that these tic-tac type objects have been seen for decades, and there's been reports of them for decades, not only around the United States, but around Canada and the world.
Now, it's not absurd for, just wanted to clarify the recording of the flight piece, too. I mean, this is just general aviation radio traffic. There was nothing nefarious going on by recording air traffic. I mean, you can just, if you have the radio that can tune the right frequencies, anybody can listen to that too. So there's nothing sneaky here. Do you think that they've had to go public with it because it was captured for the first time by sort of a peasant, but I was just like a normal citizen?
Absolutely. It's out there. It was recorded. It's legal to record it. All right. The radio transmissions, unless they are military, which they are using encrypted radios at that point. But for public air traffic, you can record the audio for it. And if you can tune into the frequency and have the technology to do so, like many ham radio operators do, they will do that. So nothing illegal happened with Steve Douglas recording this audio. The fact that it took off, and it took off courtesy of a group in ufology on YouTube called Third Phase of Moon. And they've got like over 800,000 subscribers on their channel, and they were the ones who were able to break that news, and then it took off in the media following that report, along with the audio, which has been released publicly. So anybody can go hear that audio of the pilots from the flight talking from American Airlines. So, I mean, look, these close encounters are happening. They're happening to military aircraft. They're happening to civilian aircraft. What these objects, these cylindrical objects are, we don't know. Look, I want to say it's aliens because when you're an experiencer and you've seen something unknown like that, it's always aliens. If you've never had an experience, it's never aliens and probably some sort of government technology. I'm standing on the vote that it's aliens because not only do I appreciate the woo and respect the woo, but it's just, well, when you get the military coming out and saying, yeah, it wasn't one of ours, then you know it's something from somewhere else.
So now your Elizondo pal that you had on here, now this, what does he do? Because he my understanding is he's like full on like UFO hunter guy, right?
Well, Luis Elizondo used to run the secret program at the Pentagon, which was basically the UFO desk. Anything, for a guy like me, my dream job in Canada, besides working in the NHL, even though, things are going on. My dream job would be to working on some woo desk in Ottawa, the weird desk, where you get to investigate all of these weird, strange happenings that people are having. And you get to get real deep in. That's what he did for a living. In secrecy until he felt he took the program so far and felt it was time to go more into the public life, which is what he did by joining the To the Stars Academy for 3 years, and then recently in December leaving the TTSA to kind of move on to his own other projects. I mean, he's still working for the government at this point, but he is someone who is breaking down to not only United States politicians and military, but also to militaries and politicians around the world in this phenomena. People want to know if this is affecting their country. I mean, look here in Canada, Shane, just for a quick second. We talk nothing about this subject. Nothing. All right? I mean, recently, we have had a whole spate of UFO topics on mainstream news, in the paper, on television, like from CBC to Global to everybody has covered these UFO videos. And not a single Canadian reporter, not a single one, has asked a politician or the Prime Minister himself, what's Canada's role? Do we have any of this? Are these craft coming into our skies? Where do those reports go? Why are we not getting any Canadian reports? That is why, my friend, this is an issue. And Canadian people are way too naive and polite to ask those questions. If they see a UFO, if I walk up to anybody in my town, I'm known as the weird guy in town, and I'm okay with that. Okay, I'm labeled, and I'm okay with that. And somebody will come up, you really believe in that stuff? And I'll say, yes, I do. And they will say, can I tell you a story? They always want to tell a story, but we don't want to look deep into it. So is it the fault of the media? Is it the fault of the public not pressuring the media? Is it the fault of the politicians not being upfront with what they are being told or who is telling them the information? We don't know. We really don't know.
So we don't have awareness of that desk that you spoke of that Luis Elizondo was on down in the States. I mean, we don't have a department that you're aware of that can speak to this, or, the Area 51 notion, at least
in Canada,
the mystery around that place. Yeah, like down in the States with Area 51, at least whether it was true or not doesn't matter. At least there was a place that it was a catch-all for all things weird. Do we even have that? Anything like that we are even suspect of?
That's the $1 million topic. We don't know if it's the Department of Transportation, if it's the Department of National Defense. We don't know. That's the problem. Now, there is, according to Paul Hellyer, who believes that the TSB is the one who is controlling all of these sightings from airliners, but that doesn't include the military. So because Canada does not have a major defense budget, all right, we don't have that extra money to put to the side for these little black operations, as they're called, black projects. However, we do know that and I will say this without giving out any information, I'm trying to find that answer. I think I'm getting closer. I don't know who the person is, but I know, this is like a puzzle, all right? I've got the pieces all lined out, and I'm starting to put the outline of the puzzle together. And I think it starts, with looking at some of these areas, like the Department of Transportation, like the National Safety Board, like the Department of National Defense. What is being hidden up at Cold Lake? Are there secret bases on Cold Lake's territory where these craft are hiding or tested? We don't know, because we're very good at not telling things if we're not asked.
Why Cold Lake? What draws you to Cold Lake?
It's in the north, less population. Cold Lake, Alberta, or the CFB Cold Lake, is pretty much the exact same size, a little smaller than Nellis Air Force Range in the United States, in Nevada, where Area 51 is hidden. They have a test area for different technologies at Cold Lake through an AETE program. And there's that's where Canada's majority of the CF-18 Hornets are stationed, in the west, before they're broken down to go, on tours to Comox or to other portions of Western Canada. So all the technology and all the areas are there. So Cold Lake, in my opinion, makes sense. Thunder Bay may be a good one in Ontario, because that base there holds a lot of big aircraft, the transport aircraft that the Canadian military has. It's also very much, sparsely populated in that portion of Ontario. Quebec, if you go into northern Quebec, north of Bagotville, you could probably find something there. We don't know. But for sure, Cold Lake would be the first testing ground that I would look in Canada.
What are some of the places then in Canada? I saw some stats that said most UFO sightings are actually in Toronto.
Yes.
Which I found strange because, I mean, it's such a populated, bright area as opposed to some of the darker, like you sort of, maybe this is a Hollywood thing, but you sort of see these darker places where you'd see them. But where now, some of these stats are old too, some of these storylines, where now are you seeing UFO reports the most in Canada?
Everywhere. Toronto's number one, that area. And I believe that has something to do with the Great Lakes, because the Great Lakes have seen a lot of UFO activity on both sides of the border. Quebec and in the Montreal area is also very high. Vancouver area is also very high as well in the concentrated populations. You know, northern people in Canada, like where I live, I'm not that far north. I'm only 5.5 hours north of Vancouver. There are thousands of people who live north of where I am. And you know, you go to Alberta, you have Edmonton, which is far north up there, and then further up Fort McMurray and places like that. Okay, most people in smaller communities don't like to report things. They're there for a reason, because they want a simpler life. They don't want to be a Karen. They don't want to be somebody who is ratting out people. They just want to mind their own business. So if they see a UFO or they see a Bigfoot or something along those lines, they're not there to say anything. They may say it in a private conversation or even talk around town, but it's not going to make provincial or national news. Therefore, you know, we miss a lot of those. Add to the fact that the majority of the population in a lot of these centers, whether it's Toronto, Vancouver, Montreal, many people out there, and it's not to sound ignorant, they can't tell the difference between a drone and an airplane and a helicopter and a kite and a UFO. So the fact that more people are looking into the sky, seeing things that don't make sense, well, if something doesn't make sense in the sky, it's unidentified flying object. It's not that they're wrong, but it's not the aliens we're looking for.
Yeah, and I guess technically, by definition, you know, the UFO, that's what it is, unidentified flying object. It's interesting. Dave Scott, thank you for the update on the Woo. It's great to hear your voice again. If you do shave the beard, you have my permission.
Oh, never. I would never do that to my public. Never do that to my public. We'll talk to you soon, my friend.
Thanks so much, Dave Scott.
All right, let's get to the news, shall we? The news is always changing, which is why we bring you the SOR Newswire at the back end of every show, where we get to the weird, the strange, the wacky, and sometimes, what do we got here? Oh, some paranormal. How about that? A father on TikTok recently shared a video, what he claims his daughter being pulled under her bed by a paranormal being. In the footage, a child is seen on top of her bed, hunching over it, seemingly to peer at something underneath. She then gets off the bed and inches further and further underneath it until only her feet are visible. The child can be heard crying out for her mommy while going under the bed. The TikToker, who goes by @JoshDean0222 on the platform, revealed in a text on the video that his wife thinks she crawled under the bed, but that he believes she was clearly pulled by something. Yeah, the footage, which is basically seen from a baby monitor in the child's room, has been viewed 8.7 million times. And according to a timestamp on the video, the incident happened on February 21st. You know, these ghosts lately, they got to leave the children alone. Hey, ghosties, leave those kids alone. You know, go a little Pink Floyd on him. Many commentators are sharing the wife's doubts that the paranormal activity was at play. The logical explanation is that she wanted her toy and went for it, either realized that she was stuck or got scared because it was dark, one said. The kid obviously climbed under there looking for a toy and then cried because she couldn't figure out how to get out. Another wrote, calling the explanation just plain common sense. Well, you can watch the video online and you can be your own judge. How about that? How about that? Thought of the Day happens every night at this time, where we ask a question on our Facebook and Twitter pages, then read your responses on the air because we love the audience participation. Today's Thought of the Day is as follows. What is the U.S. government hiding when it comes to UFOs? Wayne, everything. Well, we can't say the technology. We see the results of the reverse engineering every day. I also believe the U.S. has dumbs with alien tech inside of them. Mike, the more they know more of what's here and where it goes than they lead on. Kimberly, they're hiding the fact that they hid it from the public since the late 40s. They have some explaining to do, and that the current DOD is probably trying to figure out how to uncover past mistakes without looking completely inept and foolish. Ryan is looking into Canada's involvement because he wants to see it happen up here. Debbie, they use them to experiment on some of us. Then they get their intelligence and military from them to watch us and foreign countries. Eric with a K, we are his fourth favorite show in the world, people. We're number 4. Eric with a K says the problem isn't the government, or the government isn't hiding it. The subcontractors they hire for plausible deniability purpose are hiding the secrets. Davey, they are hiding the fact that they have made an alliance with the Jinn and only realize this after the event. Jay, knowledge about the interconnection between space and time. Marty, weaponization of UFO back-engineered craft. Kevin, the intelligence that created them. Scott, 1, they know and are utterly terrified. Or 2, they don't know and are utterly terrified. Thank you to everyone taking part in the Thought of the Day. We will do it all again very soon on Facebook and Twitter. Like very soon, like tomorrow, because that's how soon we're going to do it. And, of course, thank you to Captain Shirk for the abbreviated SOR Newswire. Thank you to Shane from The Shift on the Chorus Network for taking us along for a ride talking some UFOs. Sean Cahill, the final hour of our interview. And, of course, to Luis Elizondo for coming in and talking some UFOs. I still think we got some aliens out of them. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight on YouTube, LGAB, Revolution Radio, Spreaker, Facebook, the Space Travelers Club, and all the snarkers and snarkettes hanging out on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, say it with me, we own the night, Mr. Bumblefoot. We need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night. But tomorrow, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night.